and we'll get going. Here we are, folks. Podcast 33, I think we're at now. My next guest is going to educate us a lot about BMX, the mid-school, almost into old-school BMX from South Australia. Tony Holmes, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Solly. Happy to be here.
All right, we start with the first question. If you could be an animal, what animal would you be and why?
I'd have to say a lion, because I like the roar and the claws. And at one stage of my life, fast-paced and always after the hunt. So, yeah, a lion.
Lion. Brilliant.
Yeah, otherwise a kookaburra.
Okay.
To really resemble Australia, and I love the mighty laugh of the kookaburra. So
Kookaburra lion. Yeah, cool. I like it.
A bit of a mix.
Yeah. All right. Start us from the get-go. You're a young kid. Take yourself back to
Jesus.
5-6 years old. What's family life? Where are you growing up? What are you doing?
All right, so born in 73, so what sort of started in America by that point. I had the old dragster bike up until I was about 5 years of age, trying to pop the old wheelies and that, even though I was a kid. Barely get the front wheel off the ground and those things. If I think about it now, they felt like a ton of bricks trying to get the front wheel up. But the teenagers, they go bloody kilometres on the back wheel. So my first bike, probably around 5 or 6, was an old Rally 16-inch. And back then, the BMX scene was really starting to grow. Redline and Hutch and Huffy and all them were starting to take place and be bigger in Australia. And I had a heap of teenage kids in the area, so I was only a youngster, and they were, 13s, 14s and that. And they'd always be out in the front street doing things, and I sort of got involved, and some of them, helped me along and give me ideas of how to jump and how to bunny hop and do wheelies properly and stuff. We'll call them wheelies because that's what they were back in the day.
Skids and wheelies, yeah.
Yeah. And we set up the old bursa brick jump, and 3 bricks high, 4 bricks high, which is shoulder height at that age for me. So I felt like a monster. But I don't know. As soon as I got on that bike, it was like my next life, and it was something I could never put down. But I'd hit this bursa brick jump like it wasn't even there, and I'd leap miles. Well, it wasn't miles, but
that's what it felt like. Yeah.
Felt like, but I was beating some of the bigger kids.
Yeah.
And just as a little funny joke, I have to add this. My brother, he's older than me, and he likes to think he was better than me. So he's like, give me a shot. Anyway, he ended up breaking his jaw and his leg.
Oh.
And told Mum it was a hockey accident.
Yeah.
So we didn't get banned from the bikes.
Yeah.
So I did a lot of that for a while. And
so, any other brothers, any other siblings?
No,
family back then?
Yeah. No, it's just 2 brothers.
Yep.
So me and my brother.
Yeah.
He wasn't really into the scene. He was more of a football and a runner, whereas that wasn't enough for me. We were brought up in a football family. Dad was a coach for Woodville Woodpeckers back in the day and took him to a grand final and that, so he was pretty high end in the football scene. But I enjoyed it, but it wasn't for me. I like my extreme sports, skateboarding, BMX, anything that was hard, fast, and likely to hurt yourself doing it.
So where was that you were growing up?
Findon.
Yep. So Findon Skid Kids, has that become a part of it along the way? Or?
Yeah, that's part of the story and still part of the story today. Have a lot of involvement with the Findon Skid Kids and Tammy Clark down there, which Dad pretty much got it going and put a lot into the sport. Because I was in the area, so when Findon decided they were going to do a BMX track, I think it was about 81 or 82, somewhere around there, they wrapped it around their oval track. And today you look at it, you just think, I can't believe there used to be a BMX track here. So Mum never let me race. She said, no, you can't do that. It costs too much and you're going to hurt yourself. But she knew what we're doing every day. To this day, I still argue with her about it. But she said, no, you're not doing racing. It costs too much and everything else. So I used to nick off down to the track every now and then without her knowing, 6, 7 years of age, riding down Main Crittenden Road all the way to Findon Road and into Skid Kids. So I'd sort of sit back and watch for a while and, get an idea of the sport back then. But
is that when they do the fire jump and they do all that sort of stuff as well? Was it that,
Yeah, back
that would have
then.
been pretty exciting as a young kid.
Yeah, they didn't do it at the track so
okay.
much. They did it at the track when it was more of a
Bigger event.
Yeah, or it was something to promote the sport. They did a lot of, as everyone knows, Wavell showgrounds and motocross events and all that sort of stuff. So got to see a lot of that over time as well, which was somewhat of an influence of my craziness, you could say. Tried to get on the motorbikes, but the brain was too crazy to get on a bike. So I stepped away from that, and that's where BMX sort of became the main thing. I knew if I used to break a leg, I was getting back up and going again. But on a motorbike, I knew that that was it. I
Becomes a lot
full
worse,
throttle, and I still wouldn't be here today. I know that for a fact.
Consequences, yeah.
Yeah.
And sort of about your schooling, what was school life for young Tony Holmes like?
Yeah, very bad.
Yeah.
Hated school.
Yeah.
Spent all my time staring out the window, wishing I had my bike or something there instead of. Bike day was the best day.
Yeah.
Loved bike day.
Did you get all the way through school?
No, dropped out in year 10, went to work. Just really wasn't for me. Just went into a factory job where my brother was working and then sort of to and from different jobs ever since. And, got a lot of experiences now and so on.
So many, I reckon, again, we're 33 podcasts now. I reckon 25 of them have finished by year 10, 11. Like it's very, very, it's I find it quite unusual that, I don't know, people for whatever reason thought that schooling just wasn't working out for them. And they were kind of brave enough, I suppose, family direct them and go, look, it's not the be all and end all.
No. I was sort of academically smart, but I never put in the effort. I literally spend my time staring out a window and just dreaming of other things.
The school couldn't give you something interesting enough to get you focused into it.
Yeah, and I really don't like teachers. Never got along with teachers, still don't today. But, that's the benefit for the children is when they've got a problem, I go deal with the teachers for them.
Yeah.
But, I look back now and I sort of wish I went a bit further and maybe, set my goals a bit higher for what I wanted to become later in life. But I've also learned in our time, you didn't really need that extra curriculum. You could sort of wing it most of the way, which is how I've lived my whole life, just winging it. My dad left the family when I was young, and I was left without that role model and someone to push me in the direction I needed to be in. So there was one stage there where I totally went out of control as a youngster, just trying to get my parents' attention. And no matter what I did, I couldn't get it. So Findon back then, was 5 kilometres away from Mansfield Park and Kilkenny area and all that, where it was a bit of a rough area back in those days with all the multicultural gangs and things. Everyone's trying to own their area, and very scary area. But 9 years of age, I'm out the window on my push bike, midnight, riding over to Mansfield Park because that's where my mates were. And if they weren't up or anything, I'd just ride around places. And my parents had no idea that I was doing this. But again, I was mostly doing it for the attention to say, hey, look, I'm here. I understand now that they were tied up in their breakup and everything else. But they really forgot about me. But that set a new avenue to my direction. And I probably based my whole life just to be the best I can in myself and anything I'll pick up to try and do. And once I achieve that, I get bored and move on to something else.
But BMX was the direction that was the thing that gave you
that was
family,
my escape.
kind of brotherhood.
That was my escape. That was my freedom to everything. It didn't matter what was going on in the world while I was on my bike or my bike was next to me. I was literally one of those kids that would take my bike to bed. No joke. I loved it.
Yeah.
And mum and dad, when I was younger, from that 5-6 year age there, we could not go anywhere without me throwing my bike in the back of the car. But back in those days, you could go anywhere and there was a BMX track or there was jumps or something. Like, it was just unbelievable. I look back now to what we had back then in the early 80s to what we have now, and it's just a different outlook. And, it was good to see that development happening back then for what it was, and it was a big sport, like whether they were racing, jumping, freestyle, whatever. It's huge.
A lot of passion from within the sport to to run and create these facilities. I'm in touch with a few people, Teachery Gully, and different BMX clubs, and now you got the fast down south. You know, that's disappointing. Like there seems to be a lot of money in the sport of BMX racing, and maybe we're not getting anywhere near as much out of it for the money that's getting put into it. You know.
No, that's right, and it seems to be a lot of money disappearing because over the last 5 years, the cost of racing that's gone up is just crazy. But yet there's nothing going back into the sport. There's no promotions, there's no open days and all that without them having to fill out a form, pay some money. And, you know, back in the day, it would be come and try day and it would cost you $1 and they'll lend you a bike, helmet, everything you need, and away you go. But now it's all about how much dollars we can get out of it.
Probably insurance or whatever.
I'm not sure. Hire a bike.
And such a few people there's people with good hearts trying to do their best, but you can only do so much, you know.
Well, they're taking a lot out of the sport, so it's not just racing. Like even looking at the freestyle side and you know, the dirt jumping and all that. Now that it's an Olympic event, they're somewhat trying to can it into an organised sport, which I always said never really worked for BMX, even before the Olympics came in. I said, you know what, this sport's doomed because it's all about creating that one thing, and they hold the package to everything. So anyone that's trying to come up, if they don't play by the rules, then they're not going to make it up.
You identify as a talent, we'll bring you into our program, but you got to do all this, this, and this.
Yeah, and it's a bit disappointing, like, you know, to see it from what it was so many years ago up until about 2000 when they started bringing in all these different rules. And, you know, all of us older riders at the time, we had no chance of making the Olympics, but we were told that we have to do this, that and everything else so that the sport can then become part of the Olympics. So we somewhat set the path for the younger riders. By the time they got there, they were ready to go and they could step into it and so on, which was great. But again, they just took it out of what it should be, and it's become more
took the freestyle out of freestyle, you know.
Yeah,
took the freedom out of
watching
freestyle.
it now, you know, the fires and all that is great sport, but UCI and everyone want a part of it, and they're making it more like road cycling. Not that I've got anything against road cycling, but again, the criteria and that you got to meet to be a part of that, it's just a joke. It really is. You know, they should operate it more like football, where you choose your riders at the age of 9 or 12 and then develop them to become the Olympian. Now, I understand you can't properly do that without putting them through the run of everything to then be able to go, oh, yeah, well, you're going to be the best one day. Peter Moyle, we'll bring him up quickly. He taught me a lot about the sport, and he was very good at finding new talents.
Sorry, we're talking Peter Moyle from Standish Cycles.
Standish Cycles,
yes. Spend a minute, yes, 100%.
Yep. So he was very good at picking new talent, and I say today, without him, we wouldn't have the sport we have today or yesterday.
Because he was also the president of the BMX Road Association at one point.
And SABMX and everything. And as you know yourself, he supported dirt jumping and freestyle everything, and anything BMX that you approach him with, and you'd be like, yep, I'll jump on board on that. So when it made that change, when Peter Moyle left us, the sport started to really change, and the people behind it were starting to do their own thing. Now, I'm not saying anything against that, but it's created what we have today. And to look at that sport today, especially racing and even parks and skate parks and all that, is taking a different line to what it was. Now, I've got nothing against evolving and progression and everything. Like what I see now is great, but it's missing a few things of what it could be. So it's almost like they've jumped the gun to, well, let's get it to the future. That's great. But when you look at it now, so you go back 20 odd years ago when a fast lap was something like 39 to 45 seconds for a pro rider, due to the technicality and the amount of pedaling you got to do in between, all that stuff played effect on running times. And now they're running them in like 29 seconds. To me, that's not a race, it's a drag race. So they need to change it to bring it up to the level where the riders are at. If you watch, we'll go into racing again. If you watch racing now, there's not a lot of racing involved. It's almost flat out to the first corner, and then they pump and jump the rest of the way with barely any pedals. So I think somewhere along the line that needs to change for that side of the sport. Dirt jumping's, I don't think will ever change to the way they operate that and the way it works. And, the riders of today in that are just phenomenal. You got Ryan Williams out there, which is my favourite rider at the moment. He's just blowing it apart. He brings in all these scooter
every 2 weeks there's something new.
Yeah, exactly. Every 2 weeks. I follow this guy on Instagram and everything. Even every week, you're like, oh, I'm going to bust this one. And a week later, he's pulled it. So,
yeah, he's amazing to watch.
He is. Amazing. He's crazy, and that's what needs to be on a bike, is craziness.
But spend a minute. I'm not that familiar with BMX racing. Like, you're suggesting 20, 30, 40 seconds for a lap. So are there rules to building a track and it's got to have so many turns and so many jumps and that? Or is it the overall achievement for the fastest rider is a certain time to do that, like under a minute? Okay, sprint flat out around this track.
Well, now they do a time trial for the elite riders. So anything from a junior elite, under 23s, then to pro riders, they have a time qualifier. So they've obviously got to do that within a certain time. I think the bracket's 35 seconds at the moment.
But they design a track to it? You can't just put an extra bend in. You can't just put, we're going to make another rhythm straight.
You can, but tracks have always been a funny one. I've built a lot of tracks over time, and you really got to get input from all the riders. It's no good someone coming in and going, let's put a tabletop there and a step up there and all that, because first of all you got to find your flow, and without your flow you're not really going to get the response you want from the riders. So whenever we built tracks or changed tracks, we'd always get feedback from riders of how they would like it, even though there'd be a lot of us riders involved, but everyone's at a different level in racing. You got your novice, you got your kids and so on, so you've got to make it so that it's doable for everyone.
They get through the course safely, no matter what your level is.
Yeah, and you learn all different experiences and everything through different stages of the track or different tracks. So there's never really been what you'd say a proper guideline to, it must be like this or it must be like that. They've just taken it off their basic route. So anywhere from 350 metres to 450 metres is about the length of the track. 3 berms, 4 straights.
That's a rough standard.
Rough standard, but I think when you go into that next level, like everything, there should be something changed, whether they put a 50-metre sprint at the finish line to then make those elite riders push that harder. They're doing sprints every day.
An opportunity for second and third to catch first with a bit of technique and a bit of power.
Or put more technical in and give it another 50 metres of technical, so that when they get, like if you watch, when they're at that last straight, they're pretty much taking it easy and they roll through it, and every now and then, like you said, third, fourth, fifth might just shoot through because they're like, I've got all this energy, let's go. But the way it's happening is, the way I see it, I've lost a bit of interest in racing, because now they get to that first straight and they get all packed up and then they all back off and then it's just follow the leader all the way. And to me, that's, again, not racing. What's lacking in that is, one, they're probably feeling it's a bit scarce when you got bitumen corners, concrete corners, this hard surface over the jumps. Like, it doesn't make the sport safe. So they're playing it safe where they can, which I completely understand. If you're trying to ride at a professional level, you've got to look after yourself. You can't go out there and go hard all the time and come off and you're out for 6 to 8 weeks or 12 weeks if you break your leg. So they somewhat play it safe, and anyone in second, third, fourth will hold their line and just play the blocking game. It doesn't always work, but that's where it's at.
And so when did you get into racing?
So my first years was 89 to about 94. Took it up for a while, and it was mostly just for the exercise and the fun of it, and to just be a part of something.
Who was your local club then?
The Cove.
Yep.
Yeah. Most of the time it was the Cove. We switched over to Happy Valley for a while, but went back to the Cove.
And who were you rubbing shoulders with in those years?
Those years, Stephen Davies, David Woolard, Carl Duncan, Davison boys. Davison boys are a lot like the Beard boys. So, it's almost like the generations, there's always someone replicating someone in a way. So Jesse was around back then. He was only a child, but he was one hell of a rider. Shane Aguilar, he was sort of fresh to the scene back then as well. And, you know, he grew with it and became one hell of a rider. Yeah, there's just so many. Another guy named Stephen Davies, he took me under his wing for a while, and he achieved a lot in BMX. He did a bit of freestyle and stayed away from the dirt jumps, but mostly freestyle and racing. So I met up with him, and he sort of taught me the racing lines of things and correct my jumping a bit more, because I was more of I'll call it a gutter jumper, because I'd find anything and just jump it. But I didn't have the style for a racer. And so he taught me, but then someone like Dave Woolard set a big line for everyone. So he was only a couple of years older than me. But he had a very unique style for an Australian rider, and he still carries that style today, and he's still riding, maybe not as much, but he still gets out there, and, you know, you look and go, oh, there's Dave Woolard because of his style. And he had a beautiful style, so I somewhat try to replicate that as well as add my own, because he just looked smooth and everything. And I know that those boys were a lot of what Jesse took on. They somewhat influenced him and encouraged him. But then Jesse took on his own line and just went above and beyond with everything, as we know. So, you know, watching those riders back then, it was pretty blown away, because to see riders at that level and to do the things that they did on and off the track was just like seeing Americans coming over and doing their thing. You know, it's not something you'd see in Australia every day. And to see it in our own backyard was pretty impressive. And, you know, even though I didn't race all the time, I always took away mental images of what these guys had done, and, you know, how they'd do things, approach, you know, jumps, things like that. So, you know, they played a big part in it.
So how far did you push the racing side of things? Like, where did you get to with that side of it?
Oh, again, I was dropping in and out, just due to the fact that, you know, money costs, starting a family, all that sort of stuff. So I dropped out again at about 92, I reckon it was, and picked it up again in 98.
98. And how old are you? How old are you at 98 then? In
98? 25.
Okay.
So yeah, sort of a peak age, I believe, for racing.
And what, so you started a family at some point in there?
Yeah, I had my first boy in 91. His family, like his mum's family, came and joined us on the track for a while. So that was good to always try to bring new people into the sport. But he sort of went off. Me and his mum broke up, so I couldn't, at the age he was, I couldn't get him into anything. He was still too young.
Yep.
But I was dinking him on my bike everywhere. You know, people used to look at me. I literally have him on my leg, pedaling and carrying him around. There was no problem. I did that for 2 years.
Yeah, yeah.
And, yeah, everyone would look at you like, oh, that's dangerous, like people are today. But yeah,
not if you got some skills.
No,
you know? Yeah, that's
no,
it. You
that's
care
right.
about your kids.
Yeah.
You're not going to drop
and
them.
I love my bike.
Yeah.
So very rarely we took the car. If it was a short run, we'd take the bikes.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
you know. But yeah, as far as in the scene, they're the main ones that stood out the most to me. Larry Rowe, you probably know that name. You know, he rode for years. He was an older rider back then, probably in his late 30s, early 40s. And, you know, he rode up until he was 80-something, until they built that Sam Willoughby track. And he said, oh, no, that's enough for me now. But he still does road cycling and a bit of mountain biking, I believe. So, you know, people like that really played a big part in my influencing.
Are you still involved in the scene at all now, or?
Well, I tried to be, but I don't know. They didn't really accept me too well. So
at 98, you started racing again?
Started racing again. My second son came along.
Yeah.
And this is a true story. We went down to watch the Southern Cross motocross one day. It was state titles. So I took him down there, and he was just running amok. He didn't really care what was going on the track, and it was getting hard for me to enjoy it. And the same day, the Cove had the Southern Stampede. I thought, you know what, I'm going to take him home, and on the way through, we'll go stop at the Southern Stampede. And yeah, we pulled in there, and there's heaps of people there. It was a big event. Southern Stampede was a huge event back in the day. And he couldn't see, little tacker. So I threw him on my shoulders. The next thing I just feel him like all tense up. He's taking a big breath. And I hear this, oh, wow, above all these people like carrying on with the race going on. And I've just sort of looked up and he feel him, he's all tense and excited. And I'm like, you're right up there? He's like, yeah.
This is awesome.
Yeah. And so I said to him, do you want to do this? And he's like, yeah. So, you know, that was my drive to get back into it. And I went back into it as a parent. So I didn't really have any goals at that point in time. It was fun and exercise. I never wanted to be the best. I wanted to be the best for myself, but not, you know, the best on the track or best anywhere. It's what I could achieve, not who I could beat or anything. So when I went back in 98, so this is a funny story. So I pretty much stopped riding between 92 to 98. Little bits and pieces here and there, but not enough to keep the form going or the style going. So I went back to it and I thought, you know what, I've got to start at the beginning again. I can't just jump into it and go. So I started riding around all the local areas, you know, Hackham, Morphettvale and all that, and just trying to soak up as much as I could. Well, this one day I went out to the Cottage Lane area and funny enough, hiding behind the bushes was Jesse and all his crew. And I didn't know them at that time, and well, I did, but I didn't know that was them. I sort of looked over and I'm like, feeling a bit intimidated here. You know, there's a group of kids over there. Oh, shit. And I'm an adult. And like to this day, I laugh at myself. So anyway, I'm like, bugger, I'll go somewhere else. And I was just riding out of there and there was two little doubles, like literally a foot high. And I thought, oh, I'll manual the first one and jump the second one. Can't be too hard, you know. I won't go for anything big. Well, the bloody head stem gave way, like literally came off the bike, and I've crashed, and I could hear them all in the bushes laughing at me. So I'm just, embarrassing. And off I went through the bike in the car and, you know, just left the scene. And then, yeah, your videos came into play and everything. So I started watching videos and, again, starting getting into riding, but on my own, finding places where I could just develop that skill again, put some into the sun. And then I'm like, all right, I'm ready to go back to racing. And funny thing is, the day I went back to racing, it was a club day, and Jesse was on the microphone, and I crashed 3 times in the one race. And he was laughing about it and somewhat giving me the shit. But, you know, I'd get up and I'd laugh and I'd do it like a victory dance or something and just make a big, you know, scene about it all. And that caught on. Everyone saw that as, oh, yeah, look at him.
He's having fun.
Yeah.
He can crash and still have fun.
And I always say, like, you're not learning if you're not crashing, or you're not trying hard enough if you don't crash.
Yeah.
So, you know, you can't pick up a bike and pull a tail whip without a few shin bashes and so on.
You'll never get it first time.
No. So, to me, that was learning, that was developing. And then I went on, took out 3 SA1s in my age category, and then went to the Worlds and the Aussies. The Aussies, I probably could have done better than what I did, but my main aim was just to qualify. It wasn't to get to a final or anything, but I was trying on the off chance, and I nearly made it, except this one race. It was at the Adelaide Entertainment Centre. I've come around the second turn, and there was a guy in front of me, and I've been riding his back tyre the whole way in most of the races. So I decided, well, you know what, I'm going to go up on the high road, and I'm going to try and take him on the outside. And I was literally left with about 1 inch of berm on the top. And as I was coming out of the berm, I don't know what happened, but I ended up over the berm. I landed inside the finish line, and Merv Thomas, Nobby, he's there at the microphone, and he's like laughing at me. He goes, "Now what are you going to do? Now what are you going to do?" And if I had crossed that line, I would have got a DNF, which would have knocked me out of the qualification. Yeah, okay. So I literally walked back to where I left the track, because that's the rules, and then rode the rest of the track. And Nobby came up and shook my hand. He said, good on you. Are you through? And I'm like, oh, I hope so. And it was enough to get me through, put me in 28 of 32 that needed to qualify.
Yeah.
So I was happy with that. And then I was off to Perth. And I don't know, I just had this mindset of, I don't want to win. I just want the experience of being in a world title. So I held back a lot on what I was capable of doing.
In your heats and what year, sorry?
2003.
Okay.
So, yeah, I was just doing what I needed to do to you know,
get through your heats and
get around the track, really. Wasn't, like I said, wasn't there to win or anything. I didn't have that image in my head. It was about what I could take out of it and not put into it. So I held back and just took my time, but somehow I kept pulling fourths and fourths and fourths. And I think I was third motto or something. And I pulled up and Peter Moyle was handling all the scoring, and I've stopped at him and I'm like, how are we travelling? And he goes, you just keep doing what you're doing, you'll be fine. I'm like, okay, so a fourth's going to do it. He goes, you just keep doing what you're doing, you'll be fine. And I'm like, fucking, all right, Peter. He'd never give you too much information. But so, I followed that. And then before I know it, I was in the quarters. Now, I probably should have tried a bit harder, but I didn't. But that put me in a fifth, so that threw me out of the qualification for a semi. But at the end of the day, I was happy with my result, and knowing for a fact that if I had especially jumped the first jump, I probably would have been all right to go. But the problem with that is it's too crowded. And in my age group, you get a lot of fast riders with no control. So a lot of people were crashing out in that first jump, which is a lot of reason why I stayed back a bit.
Yeah.
I didn't know my power compared to the guys in front. So I thought, well, if I just sit back, people are going to crash out. I'm going to be safe. And that pretty much how it happened. So, we'd have 7 in the gate and 2 or 3 will crash out over the first jump. And I could pretty much roll it from there. But the second straight was set up like a pro straight today, somewhat. It was a bit of a technical section and big jumps. And it was the first time that anyone's seen the triple step up. So, once I got around that first corner, I'd just power through to be able to jump all that part and the rest of it. And that's where it carried me into fourth and so on. So, again, it wasn't about to be the best. It was just to be the best for myself.
Yeah.
And take
and
whatever
so
I can.
get into the check and jump as, I'm going to get that double, or I haven't done that yet. Maybe this time I'll hit it up. Because you're obviously scared and nervous as well,
Well, it was a huge event, and you got thousands of people watching over you, and that's not anything I'm used to. So, it was scary. Definitely scary.
What bit do you push and what, like I said, maybe it's a bit more calculated, a bit smarter. Go, nah, you guys crash out on that bit and pick up the pieces around them,
And then, if you see people crashing out, you make a mental note of that.
Because you're late 20s, 30-ish almost?
So 30.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, right on 30
Yeah.
in 2003.
Once you got kids and families and responsibilities, you go, oh, look, I could
go
do
to
something
work.
else
Yeah.
other than crash on this jump.
That's right. Yeah. And, and that was the whole plan, was I'm not going home in a bloody ambulance or wheelchair. So you just look after yourself and, get back to work, pay the bills. Even then in racing, you really had to be the best to get something out of it, to not work.
Yeah, there was sponsorship, but it was you're never going to get rich out of riding.
No.
Definitely not in those days, And
No.
even today, you're not going to get rich out of it. You might make a living.
You get the right sponsors today,
Yeah.
you will.
Yeah.
So, Adidas and all them are playing big parts now. So I'm not sure how much they pay into the rider, but when you got bigger companies like that, you get bigger handouts.
Yeah.
But the bike companies, no, they don't carry a lot and don't give a lot. And which is why you get riders always swapping and changing. They're not getting the best out of the company they're riding for, or they just prefer another company. So. Yeah.
And so how much after that did you keep your racing up for? How did you keep going?
I went to about 2007, and that's when I broke my ribs and collapsed and punctured my lung. Put me out of action for 6 months, not just on a bike, but work and everything.
In general, yeah.
Put me in a really bad position in life.
How did that
Well,
happen?
how did it happen?
Yeah,
It
what
was
happened?
during racing. So I was at Happy Valley, and these 2 new guys had come in while I was having a bit of a break at that time. I normally have a bit of a rest from racing and then go back after a couple of months, and that's what happened this time. And I don't know, it feels and seems like it was all set up, but I can't guarantee that. So racing down the back straight of Happy Valley, I can't remember the exact setup back then, but there was a tabletop before you went over the triple step up. And I was coming through there, and I've always had my line. But these 2 guys that were in front of me, one did a brake check on me, and the other one shafted me off the track. Like, literally, he had no reason to bump me. That's why I think it's deliberate. So he's bumped me off the track, and then before I know it, a handlebar's going through my ribs. I didn't realise the depth of my injury until I was arguing with the ambulance guy that I'm not getting the ambulance. Just call my mum, she'll get it quicker. But I ended up in the ambulance, and yeah, that was a very scary situation. I ended up with 10% oxygen intake in my lungs, and the rest was full of blood by the time they got me in to drain it. Very painful, and everything just went wrong after that. Lost my job, lost everything. Partner at the time. So it was a lot to come back from. So when I did recover, it was sort of a thing not to get back on the bike, because in my eyes, I was going to put myself in a dangerous position that I couldn't afford to carry if I did it, because they had no money coming in, had to borrow money left, right, and centre, and I was told, yeah, when you're all done, just issue receipts to the insurance company and they'll pay you back. Well, they only paid 50% back, so it was 18 months after that to recover any of the debts that I accumulated in that time to live.
Because in that circumstance, does the Racing Association have insurance, or how does I don't know. It sounds like an incident racing would be under the insurance policy of the club or something.
That's correct.
Yeah.
But the way it was set up is you only got 50% return, but that was never explained. And you got to meet all these different criterias to what they will actually pay out.
That seems
very
justified to feel a little bit upset about something like that.
Very much.
That's yeah. And were there members in the club that they could do what they could do, but their hands were tied, or did it come to a point that you felt like the club could have done more? That's just what the policy was.
Club,
that's just what it is.
Yeah, that was just the policy.
That's just what it was.
Don't hold the club responsible
for anyone, young or old, man, woman.
As far
if
as
you
I
have
know,
an
yeah.
accident like that.
Yeah, as far as I know, I don't think it's changed much.
So you check the fine print or something like that. That
Yeah,
seems pretty unfair and unreasonable. That just seems ridiculously unfair and unreasonable.
I did check the fine print later when I was about 3 months into my injury.
Yep.
Or 3 months after the injury. So, yeah, it did stimulate that it was only a 50% recovery of any financial loss. But most of it's all medical, ambulance, all that stuff.
Is that stuff covered or not?
Only 50%.
Even that?
Yeah.
So I understand, okay, you've got a job and you can't work. Okay, that's maybe a grey area. But your hospital expenses and your cost to
Well, we've got to thank the government
yourself.
for that one, but the only one I can thank the government for.
Yeah.
You know, they carried it. But there were things I had to pay for myself.
Yeah.
It just wasn't under a government system. 25,000 in the end I outlaid for anything, got 13 back.
Yeah.
So yeah, it wasn't an easy hit.
No.
That's for sure. And another reason why I say it's deliberate is because these guys didn't know that I'd raced before, and I think in their mind that, you know, I was somewhat of a threat to them. But again, I wasn't there to beat anyone. I was just there to do my personal best. If it meant beating them, it meant beating them. But, you know, it wasn't my aim. It's just for me to, right, this is what I'm capable of, and this is what I want to do. But before that race, those two were together, and they were discussing something. And they kept looking at me, and you know, I'm pretty sure they came up with a game plan.
Yeah, that's
because that knock was 100% deliberate. I was already on the inside line. I couldn't go any further over. He was 2 bikes away from me, and next thing he's on me. Bang.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, why?
I mean, BMX is tough. There's arms out there. That's all about it.
Mate, 100%.
That's part of the game.
But we're not there to hurt each other.
No.
You know, it's not
Not
roller
when you're
derby.
yeah, that's it. Yeah, you know, you pile up in a turn. You know, anything can happen. You know, but when you're going straight, you kind of know your lines. I don't know.
Yeah, well, they say rubbing's racing, 100%.
Yeah.
But when you do it the way that happened, and the way I see some of these professional riders do it, there's deliberate and there's, you know, well, I was just riding my line. One of the rules is, you know, if you've got your tyre in front of the next person, you technically have the right of way. So you do have momentum of, I can go over here, I can go over there. But at the same time, you got to keep in respect where that rider is beside you or behind you.
T-bone you into a turn, you know, you both come off
like merging in the traffic.
Yeah.
You know, the same thing.
Yeah.
And you got to respect the other rider, especially in my age group at that time. Like, we weren't winning money or anything. Yeah, we were winning vouchers and stuff, but, you know, it wasn't sheep farms or palaces.
Yeah, that's it.
Weeks away in America or somewhere. It's just, you're just there to...
Bit of personal satisfaction.
Yeah. But some guys just took it way too seriously.
Yeah.
You know, but in that time again, I didn't step away from the race like BMX 100%. I just stepped away from racing.
Yeah.
Again, doing things on my own was safer. It was better. I didn't have to worry about anyone. I could just do my own thing. So you know that made a big difference in my life and how I did things. I like to say all the time, I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for the things I've developed on my own, whether it be BMX or anything. But BMX always played a part in my mentality of thinking. So, you know, when you're racing and that, you got split-second changes where you got to think and go, right, I've got to do this now. My plan didn't work because the other rider's in my way, or, you know, I didn't expect this to happen, that to happen. So you're making a change every time. And you got to be right under it, otherwise you're not going to get the result you want at the end. So my life's taken a lot of changes in its course. Like right now, I'm probably at my lowest I've ever been, worst predicament I've been in my whole life. And if it wasn't for the satisfaction of building bikes and, you know, skateboards and things, I'd probably be in a very bad mental state.
Why do you say that? Why are you in a bad spot now? Oh, sorry.
You're right.
Dogs. Yeah.
Well, I had a really bad heart attack in April. It was my second one. I had one 6 years ago in 2020 when COVID hit. That was scary. But this one was worse. They literally kept me alive for 24 hours before they could start surgery on me. So with that, it was loss of job, loss of everything. I have no income. Centrelink's not helping. It's just an awkward situation. Like even when I was a teenager, I had a job. I had money coming in. You know, everything. Now, everything I've saved and worked for, I'm selling to live. I do have good support, but not financial support. And even if people did try and financially support me, I'd just deny it anyway because, again, I'll accumulate that debt like I did, you know, back in 2007. So it's put me in a bad spot. But again, you know, determination, like in BMX or skateboarding, you want to go for a trick. You might crash it 5, 10, 15, 100 times, but the determination to get back up and go again, you know, it's always there. And I like to believe BMX prepared me for that. So, like now I take a hit and, you know, it hurts for a little while and then I'll just get back up and go full steam ahead at something and not look back until I get the result that I want. It's the same as BMX, you know, gate drops, I just go full steam ahead, don't look back until I've got my result. And you can't look back anyways, you'll crash or you'll lose a position or something. So, you know, it has taught me a lot in life. It has taken me out of a lot of situations where I haven't been in the best mental state, we'll say.
What's the best bit about BMX for you? Is it the gate dropping? Is it the elbows in the corner? What's the bit that really fires you up?
Being on a bike, just adrenaline gets my adrenaline pumping every time.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what I'm doing on it. So,
but in a race, I mean,
in a
we
race,
can go to trails and we can do some jumps and have fun, but a race is a little bit more heightened experience there. Is there?
Well, it's a bigger mind game, and I think the mind game and the challenge, I'm very one of those people that just take on a challenge. I like challenges in my life, not to just have something fall in my lap or something. So racing was always a challenge. Didn't matter how good you got. You can never guarantee a win or to stay on your bike, you know, throughout the day. So, you know, that was a challenge, and the challenge of having to compete against other riders. And like you said, bar to bar at a gate, it's a bit nerve-wracking. It was for me. So I learned to play the mind game with it, how to block everything out and plan my race forward. And, you know, a lot of the time people weren't even in my gate, even though it'd be a full gate in my head that they weren't there. You know, and I'd look down that straight and go, that's all mine. Wouldn't worry about anyone else on the track. So, you know, it became a very powerful mind game.
So is that how you'd wake up? Like you got a race meet Saturday morning, Friday night, whatever the time is. You wake up in the morning and you're getting yourself in the zone a few hours before the event?
Wake up in the morning, get the kids packed, get everything in the car and make sure I've got everything. That would take 2 hours. So I'd be up at 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, depends where we were racing. So, yeah, there was no mindset on the race.
There was no time to think about your race.
No, it wasn't
until you got in the gate.
On that gate. And I was one of these people that never did a gate practice before racing. Like everyone gets up there and practices and practices and practices. I found it was better for me not to practice. I'd go up and do one rollout just so I knew the gate was working, get an idea of the tunes, and I'd just roll out and roll the track and put my bike away. That was done. That was my practice. A lot of people didn't understand it, but it kept me fresh and ready to go, and it didn't play in my mindset before the race. So I didn't have that nerves leading up to the race. I'd be out there maintaining the track or something majority of the time. That was my part.
Yeah, you mentioned track building and a bit of experience in that. Spend a minute on some of that experience you've got.
So that goes back into the early 80s. First track I actually was involved in was down at Victor Harbour. It became a school project that I actually nominated for our art design class. And it was actually funny because our art teacher was part of BMX somewhere in Queensland for a while before he moved down to Victor Harbour. So he asked us for an art design project, and I said, well, let's build a BMX track. And he thought about it, and I thought he was going to say, nah, bugger that. And he went, yeah, all right, let's do it. We already had the one at Green Hills at that time, but we really didn't have anything public and local. You had to pay Green Hills to go use it. So down behind the school, there's some dirt there now that resemble what was there. It was meant to be bigger than what it was, but the project got canned by the council, so we got it majority built, but we didn't complete it. But I know after leaving the area that it did get used for racing and stuff over a few years for the locals. It wasn't a big race meet, but it was something for the locals to do. So that was my first step into building a BMX track.
And what tools have you got at your disposal?
Rakes, shovels.
No machines, no big
if
machinery.
If we're lucky, we'll get a
Yeah.
tip truck in to dump it where we need it. Otherwise, it was wheelbarrows and stuff. The school didn't fund anything for it.
Yeah.
And we'd literally go out during art class and just build this track. We had to design it and put it down to, perspective, measurements and everything. That's why he thought it was a great idea. So I learned a lot from that back in that time, and I still apply it now to anything I do as far as building tracks. So after that, we built a track in Goolwa. Goolwa never had a track. A local gentleman donated some land to us, and we went in and just built it again, rakes and shovels, and every now and then a mate's dad that was an earth mover would come in with a couple of ton of dirt and dump it for our berm, and he might bring in the excavator or articulator and shape the berm for us, but everything else, we're building snake pits everywhere just to get our dirt to build jumps. So, that was another step in to building without the real knowledge. But over time, I've always been involved. I watched Cove get built while that was getting built. That was a crazy track. There was cars and everything under those jumps. So, that was an experience on its own. And then from there, during time, I'd just sort of find a plot of dirt or something and dig up a jump and make some jumps here and there.
Adelaide had a lot of that going on, a lot of places.
Yeah, when I moved to Morphettvale, I was in my dreamland because there was a lot of BMX stuff around and there was so much dirt.
There was heaps happening in that area.
Yeah.
In all of Adelaide, South Australia, there was little spots, Ranella Rhythms, Cottage Lane, So
Cottage Lane, we used to use motorbikes down there, and that's when I decided I'm not riding any motorbikes. So back then, let's see, I was about 15 then, so that would have been about 88. My mate's sister actually lived across the road from there, and we went in there with a dirt bike and, mucking around on a dirt bike, and we were just getting bored with it. So we were like, all right, what can we do that's different? And I think the fork tree was still there up until it got all bulldozed down. But there was a tree just outside the creek, and sort of like that. And so I said to me, mate, I said, well, why don't we jump through that tree? And he looked at it and he goes, oh, that's nearly 50 feet away. You first. I'm like, no, it's your bike, you first. We argued for a while. All right, I'll do it. And anyway, I've jumped and I've landed directly in the middle of this fork, busted his bike apart. I've limped away a few bruises and everything. And he's like, oh, my bike. Yeah, your bike. All right. So that took me a couple of years to pay off because I wasn't earning a lot of money.
Yeah.
But I honoured him and paid it off. But, so we just built this little scoop out of the creek and we're jumping out of that for a while. And that's when I went back to BMX that time and thought, I'll go down there, I know it's basic and, I've got flat land to
Because then
land on.
on to the little snaky trails going around, little rhythms with
Well, that's when I blew out.
they'd put logs
Yeah.
in between the jumps so you couldn't bail out. You had to, you make the jump or you don't. Yeah.
That's when I blew out. That's when I knew the next level was coming.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just to see what they'd done down there is phenomenal. To me, it's a bit of an art display. Once they got it down packed and the shaping and everything, between Jesse and all them, they built some beautiful jumps.
Yeah.
They really did.
Yeah. Learn a lot. Just a lot of guys developed a lot of skill, and they weren't huge jump. Even a dirt waist high. We're not talking shoulder high or anything at this stage.
But they made it technical by shoving them together. Yeah.
You had to pump and get the next roll and get the berm and get your line.
No, they really did. They really took it to the next level, and that's what I say. Our generation started it, but these guys took it to the next level. We were pretty stuck to where we were going with it. And I don't think it was more so that we can't do it. I think it's because we're getting older and we're starting
There's
to
only
think.
so many of you. To move a lot of dirt, one or two guys, you think you had a good day. You've barely scratched the surface of, a landing. You get 5 or 6 of you or 8 of you, you can actually start doing something.
Well, that's right. Exactly right. So the Morphettvale track down here, the basketball stadium. So I had first involvement in that, but I was more just one of those lackeys that were running around, moving wheelbarrows and shoveling dirt. Wasn't playing a big part in it. And that's when that first got built. So that taught me a lot about...
So along States Road, is that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Wilfred Taylor Reserve.
I think that was one of the first... That's when I came into it. That was one of the first BMX events that I'd kind of witnessed, I think.
Yeah, cool.
Would have been early 90s.
Yeah, I know you got some footage of it.
Yeah.
So we did that for a while, and that was a lot hand built. Once again, back then, the council would be like, "Oh, sure, here's the land, here's the dirt." Not very often they'd offer any, vehicles or bobcats or anything because there was the expense, and they didn't really want to do it. But Onga Paringa were awesome. They really got on board with it all and everything, even over time. So that was early 80s. That one got built, and that was organised by all the local kids. And we somewhat built it. It's a bit of like the old BMX bandit scene, here's everything, you just build it. So, but from there, I went on to get tracks built in Aldinga. Everywhere I went, actually, just so I had a track nearby. But I talked to a lot of local kids before I'd go ahead and make it happen, just to make sure I was doing the right thing in the support of the younger people. I didn't want to build something and then they either come along and trash it, or it just doesn't get used and then the council will take it away. So, I worked alongside Matt Buckle with a lot of things.
I remember Matt Buckle, yes. I did do a few events with councils as well. That name's familiar. Yep.
Yeah, no, I was very familiar with what you guys were doing. So at one point there, I was made the track safety guy through SABMX. This is when times were starting to turn to bring in the Olympics. So we were taking into consideration rider safety and track maintenance and everything. So if we'd just done a track change, I'd be the person to go say, yep, we're ready to race, or no, give it another week, or we'll find ways around it. So I was that position for 2 years, and Matt knew that. So he'd come to me, anything you guys were trying to do, he'd come to me and discuss it with me being the track safety guy. So, for example, when the rhythm section got built down there at Hackham next to the skate ramp, he was asking me about that, what sort of levels.
That got done a couple of times, first with BMXs and then with the mountain bikes. Is that...
The mountain bikes sort of took it over afterwards.
Yeah.
BMXs made a bit of a scene with the local community, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But it wasn't the BMXs, it's just other people around it made it bad for it. But, he'd come to me and he'd say, oh, these guys want to build it this high and everything. What do you think we should do? We've got to match our insurance standards and that. And I said, look, if you're going to allow 6 foot, they're going to build it bigger regardless. So you're better off going bigger than trying to come down smaller. And so I set the measurement 3 metres high, which is 9 feet. And I know they got to about 12 feet on a lot of stuff. So, but however, once he measured it at the 3 metres, they were happy. They passed it. few weeks later it would grow, but no one would notice because they're just putting a cap on top of all
That's
this
what
stuff.
the Adelaide City Dirt Park, we were limited to 3 metres. When we got that park built, 3 metres was the start mound.
Yeah.
That was and a jump could be 2 metres, I think, with a gap in the middle. And I think that was one of the first parks in Australia that the council would sign off on and go, this is kind of safe.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I know
For a
Matt
new
Buckle
emerging
had a part to do with that because of what he was doing in Nongapringa.
Yep, yep.
So they went to him. So whether
But
he
3
passed
metres,
on...
and 3 metres on a bed, it's not that much. You know,
No,
it's
not-
not that
no.
much. It doesn't give you that much gravity or that much.
But it's a standard height for anything. So back then a start mound was 3 metres high, you know.
Yep.
So that was sort of level we were working on, and to whatever we did on a BMX track, we sort of tried to match it, but give a bit more.
Yep.
Because I was quietly doing dirt stuff for my own anyway.
Yeah.
You know, but a lot of us built those 2 foot, 3 foot jumps in Paramount, which then became monsters.
Still there today.
Still there, only just.
Yes.
Only just.
Yeah.
They are on their way out.
You need another crew of young kids to come in and
Well, they're
Keep
causing
working 'em.
problems.
Okay.
There was a
Bit
crew
of
of
less
about
respect,
30-year-olds that were looking after it very well.
Yep.
And these younger ones have just come in and pushed them out of the way.
Stop it, you young kids. If you're listening, just dig nicely and pick up your
Just
rubbish.
roll
and-
together. Roll together. We all ride metal.
Yeah,
There's,
yeah.
You know, nothing different than what we're all trying to do or achieve. So because that's causing problems, they're going to take it away, and I believe the school is going to expand a bit more anyway. So, you know, the option of keeping it there is really running out of time. But one of those 30-year-olds, he started fixing up the junk food corner.
Okay,
Jumps.
yeah.
He's done a pretty good job. You can see where the council's gone, no, this is your limit, because he's only at about 2 metres high on the main ones.
That's leading down to this concrete skate quarter
Yeah,
or
beside
half pipe.
the-
yeah. Which was, again, started with Jesse like 30-odd years ago.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
Yeah. And it's funny because I was designing something for something else, and what he came up with for that area was exactly what I designed for another area. So when I produced it to Matt, he's like, no, we've already got this. And I mean, what do you mean you already got this? He goes, oh, Jesse brought this in the other week. I'm just like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
But no, Jesse was very switched on what he was doing. He had a lot of those older guys teaching him everything, and he just went with it, and he's smart.
Some of the early days, there was just that cul-de-sac, which is now a bike path that's through. It was like a creek bed, and you just roll in one side and just a little fly out the other side. Before the jumps, original jumps, I remember going
that's
down
what
there.
happened.
And that's where people would learn a bar spin or it was just a fly out, really.
That was like a nearly 20-foot drop in.
Yeah, yeah.
And then a 20-foot fly out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all it was, a little horseshoe.
Up a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was part of that.
Yeah, I think I learnt bar spins there.
Yeah.
Thanks to Jesse. Yeah.
I can't remember. I just played everything I already did there.
Yeah.
I wasn't learning anything at that stage. But, yeah, the problem was the people walking on the path in between. And, you know, I got about 6 months enjoyment out of it. And again, Matt was coming down and investigating and talking to us all. And we're sort of saying, well, there's nowhere else. Like, you don't give us anything that we're can grow with. Like, the Morphevale track was there, but nothing was happening with it. It's just same all the time. But I actually got a change on that. So we changed that around and actually made a bullshit story and said my son crashed there and due to the way the track was and scarred up on his face. And I'm like, if we don't change it, I'm going to take you to court. And he's like, all right, we'll change it. But then that changed his whole perspective on how to deal with this stuff.
Yeah. Because it was the emerging scene at the time. Excuse me, councils had football, tennis, you had regular sports, and skateboarding was kind of emerging. That was pretty fixed.
Yep.
But BMX was really growing. We want to dig a jump, and we want a bigger jump. We want it longer. We want it here. We want it there. And there was no public BMX tracks like a public tennis court. There was nowhere for BMXers to legally really do that. Up the racetrack, yes, but you're changing the shapes of dumps when you start getting into dirt jumping.
Yeah.
The transitions and the landings, all the angles change. You know, you're
Yeah,
traveling at a different pace.
There was a part on that track. I think you videoed the very part I'm about to talk about. But you'd actually, instead of coming down the start hill with the mound at Morphevale, you come off the side of it, jump over a berm, scoot around, go through a dip, and then jump the side of the tabletop because the lip on that was better than the actual lip on the track.
Yeah.
So, you know, yeah, they got thrashed. When we changed it, I kept that in place and I built everything around it so that could still work for everyone. The idea was to set up something more and something a bit more technical for everyone to learn on. So that became, instead of a tabletop, I had sort of a roller lip that went down, but it didn't drop all the way down to the ground. It sort of went down 3 feet across, and then the tabletop, that was the trackway. We kept the tabletop so you can jump from side to side. But that was to help anyone to learn to jump bigger and further. So I was one of those riders that would just hit anything and see how far I can launch it. Good example of that one was when Seaford got built, and you've got that just normal slope on the edge there before the stairs. So you got the last hip of the bowls, and then you got a slope.
Oh, in the Seaford, in the skate around the skate park
skate
area.
park,
Yep.
And you got that slope on the side that curves around. So from that slope to the edge of the concrete was 35 feet. You couldn't get a launch. You had to literally bunny hop it. So I was bunny hopping from there to there. That was my aim. It wasn't about, I can jump a tabletop or anything. It's like, let's just see how far I can push myself.
Yeah.
Where else did I do that? Well, anything with a gap, really.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'd ride the streets of Morphle Vale. Morphle Vale just has so much to offer for riding. Doesn't matter what discipline you want to do. Morphle Vale just had it all, and it still has it today. I ride my mountain bike now along that train line. All the memories of it just keep flashing back of, you know, the crazy stuff we did along there. There's still a few hip jumps that I built down there back in the early 80s. They work well, I think.
And so when you're into your racing side of things, what bike are you riding? Like, did you get to the sponsored level, or did you have a favourite?
I like to call it a bike shop sponsor.
Yeah.
So once I started, I'd say getting a bit more serious, but I wasn't. Peter Moyle somewhat talked to me about sponsorship, and I told him it's not what I'm here for, and told him what it was about. And so instead he offered me what we call a bike shop sponsor. So I'd go in the bike shop and I'd get better discounts than anyone else, and get well looked after. I could leave my bike with him and he'd tune it all up for me before a big event. Just so I know that, you know, it's done and I don't have to sit there. I do all the kids' bikes and everything. So, you know, my time's taken up with them, and I'd just send mine off to Peter, and Leith or Chad or someone will tinker with it.
Yeah.
And then as soon as I get it back, I'll check everything. All right, it's going to fall off on me, guys. So, yeah, as far as sponsorship, it wasn't really something I was aiming for. If anything, I would have liked my son and my daughter to go further in it, to get them sponsored. But sponsorship comes with expectations. And if you don't meet those expectations, you're going to get hammered for it. So you might not lose your deal, but you're going to have your sponsors on your case all the time. If you're not performing to how they expect you to perform, they will cut you off your deal eventually, or they'll just make it hard for you to ride and focus on what you need to do, which I think is totally unfair. A rider, if you're going to sponsor a rider, you should leave them to their own devices until they come to you for the advice. This is how I feel. But you find a lot of sponsors are always hovering over and telling riders what they should and shouldn't be doing. And a lot of the time they're not riders themselves to understand what's happening on the track. So, you know, there's a lot to answer for as far as sponsorship. No, I didn't want that.
What was the bike that you were racing? What was your favourite racing bike?
Actually, my latest one, which is GHP 24-inch, 2005, I think it is. No, 15. I think it was the last one produced by GHP. That was a big eye-opener, that bike. My favourite to ride when I was actually racing back in those days,
that's it,
Diamondback 24-inch, RM24 it was.
I used to go in the 24s even back then. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, as I got bigger and older.
Is that what the age group was? Was it
Mostly.
Was it same size, or you'd compete 20 and 24 together?
You'd be lucky to get a proper competition in 20.
Okay, there wasn't enough of them. Yeah.
I'd normally sort of hang around to find out who's entering what.
Yeah.
And then just go with that bike who had the the better riders or the more competitors in it. I'd go with that race.
Yeah.
And if everyone was doing both, I'd just do both.
Yeah.
But most of my achievements was on a 24-inch, and I did things on that bike people couldn't believe. Like, oh, you're doing 360s on a bloody cruiser. And I'm like, well, yeah, it's a bike. I'll do it on a 10-speed racer if you let me. I did actually, but I won't talk about that. But
So you got into your tricks and everything else as well. You did your racing. You also got into tricks.
Well, I did two of your competitions as a novice.
Okay, which ones?
The expressway one.
Okay.
Yeah. And I was going to do the one down at, I think it was Cove, but those novice jumps were crazy, man.
Yeah.
Those shapes.
Yeah. I'll have to have a look through my footage there, and it's funny.
Yeah. You'd hit it and it was just like donk.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone survived the novice comp on that one. But I think that was deliberately done. I won't say that it was, but I think. Because you look at the novice.
We didn't know
jump.
what we're doing. You try and shape a jump, and you think this is right. And there's I don't know. Again, like you say, there's 6 guys that all want it. Oh, we should shape it like this and shape it like that. It's like,
I think with the novice jumps, they were too busy focusing on the expert jumps, which is fair enough.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was really like hitting a brick wall.
Yeah.
So I didn't put a lot into it. And I only did it for fun. Wasn't out there to win or anything, and just stuck to what I knew. So I was going home that day, not to hospital.
Yeah.
And again, it was to somewhat set an example for my children.
Yeah.
It's not about winning or losing. It's just getting out there, having fun and all that.
With your mates.
My son would have really taken off.
Is he still? Are your kids into it now, or how old are they?
Nah, so my son's turning 30 tomorrow, and my daughter's
not little boys and girls anymore. Yeah.
She's 28. Obviously, I can't keep up.
Yeah.
I've got 1 grandchild to my daughter, and my son's got 2.
Yeah.
So they're next in line. I buy their first bikes, and that's my job, is look after the bikes.
Yeah.
Do everything.
Maybe get back out there and.
Oh, I'm doing it.
Yeah. You go back out to the races every now and then?
No, I won't do the races. No, it's too much.
Until the grandkids, wait till they're a bit older.
Political now. Like, everyone's out just for themselves.
Yeah.
There's a few people out there that are out there just for the joy of the sport.
Those generations of families that have, been there in your era and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's a bit disappointing, like especially when you go back to the 80s and 90s where, we were just one big happy family. Didn't matter if you came from anywhere in the state.
It was not an affluent sport. It wasn't a rich person's sport. I don't think BMX was ever like. It was just good
get
families.
Away with the standards.
It doesn't matter, and you'll help the next guy next to you if you need a tool or a flat tire or whatever. Everyone just helps.
Yeah, I've fixed many of my opposition's tires and stuff because they couldn't put it together or they couldn't line up their tire.
Yeah.
Like you go into other sports and they'll be like, no, I'll let you work it out. I'll just beat you because you can't.
You can't even line up.
Can't do it right. But I'd be like, you having trouble there? No, fix it up for them.
Yeah.
Didn't bother me. I was only competing against myself.
Yeah.
So
you didn't mind working on the bikes? You're pretty handy with all that sort of...
Well, I'm actually going for a job this week for a bike mechanic. So
there you go.
But yeah, something I love doing.
Yeah, nice. Oh, well, put in a good word for you.
Yeah, I already did it. I already did it without even knowing.
There you go.
But no, I love bikes, and I've got 42 in my collection at the moment. Most of them are rebuilt.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Do you... I know there's the Retro Mountain Bike Club.
Yep.
On your BMX side of things, but is there a passionate group? Is there?
Oh yeah, there is and there isn't. So Rad Adelaide. I don't know if you heard of them.
Yeah.
Run by John Moyle back in the day.
Okay.
That was really good, especially for the old school retro stuff. And he also did retro racing.
Do they have any? They have a couple of these like Show and Shine or something.
We
like
used
that.
to.
Yeah.
Victoria holds a few and Queensland holds a few. Every first Sunday of the month, they have a swap meet down at Semaphore, where a lot of us old school guys will get together and we either swap or just sit there and chat about old school stuff.
Tell me more.
Okay, so every first Sunday there's a swap meet down at Semaphore across from the Largs Hotel. And
for BMX old school guys.
Yep.
Yeah.
Even for the new school if they're trying to put together old school.
Okay.
Jeremy Beard used to attend that a lot. But So we'll go down there, and every now and then on a spring day or a summer day, we'll do a show and shine as well. So everyone brings out their bikes and shows them off. I got sick of packing them all in the car and unpacking them and scratching or something in the process.
Yeah.
So unfortunately now they sit in the shed and they're all boxed
You got
up
them
at
all.
the moment.
Oh, okay. They're not hanging.
Nah, they're all boxed
nicely
up.
and-
They're
yeah.
worth too much to just hang. And
Yeah.
I don't get a lot of time to clean. So
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
bikes anyway.
So they are worth, like some of these collectors would spend some good dollars on them, or it's got to be a serious collector that wants that lineage of that brand, or
You'd spend what you believe it's worth.
yep,
So you could spend a high end. So, for example, Odyssey Speed Trap pedals are pretty hard to come by, especially in good condition. And they're fetching anywhere up to $600, $800 at the moment because you won't
for
get
some
them
pedals,
just for pedals.
which a whole bike would have cost that back in the day.
Yeah. Redline Flight cranks, they're going anywhere from, depending on the condition, $500 up. Like $2,000, I think is the highest I've seen for them. But that's immaculate, still in their box.
Yeah.
But they're only 160 mil. So, nobody wants 160 mil. They want 175s or 180s. So, unfortunately,
So it's a showpiece. It's not a practical piece, but
well, it is. But yeah, if you put a 160 on your bike, you're just showing it.
Yeah.
You're not getting any pleasure out of riding it, unless you're a kid.
yeah,
But yeah, so it is up there. But like anything, once the companies and that see that the old school's making money, they then reproduct, and then that drops the value.
yeah,
So it makes it a bit tough, and that's why I stopped doing old school. I've come into the new school era, and doing a lot of them up. I got bikes there $7,000, $8,000.
Where's the difference in old school and new school? I came into it and I thought when I was in that's old school, and I got into it in mid school.
Yeah.
Old school was way before my time.
Yeah.
You explain the difference between old school and mid school BMX
Well,
for us if you can.
the setup's completely different. So when I started coming into restoring and building bikes, I still had my RM24 from 2001, and I wanted to rebuild it. So I started rebuilding it, and I found that a lot of the parts for that era was not around anymore. And then that's when I found this GHP. I think it was on Marketplace or something. So I snapped it up, and I thought, I'll just convert all the Diamondback stuff onto that. Well, no, it doesn't work like that anymore because everything's a clamp and not a screw. So, your head stems, for example, they all clamp together now. They're not screwed down and bolted or anything. At first, I'm like, this is a bit dodgy. But when I got into it, I was like, this isn't bad. And it's good for, especially if you're racing, for quick changes and fixes. But
Yeah, because head stems and handlebars would always move,
Oh,
and you'd put the
mate,
Coke can
yeah.
shim, and you just try and just
the old Coke can wrapped around the handlebar to hold it in place a bit more.
Yeah.
But you only get a day out of that.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, big changes like that. European bottom brackets instead of, your American bottom brackets. Frames changed and everything, aluminium to carbon fibre. Like, I think they've gone way out of what they should be doing. I think the old chrome moly should have just stayed. I don't understand why anyone would need to lift 200 and something kilos as part of their routine to then throw around a 2 kilogram bike. That just blows me away.
Getting lighter and lighter.
And I don't understand it.
Yeah.
Like, we were doing big jumps and we were riding fast with the old chrome mollies, and they stayed together unless you put it under Jesse Carlson. So, it's just one of those things. I don't like the bikes today. To me, they don't resemble BMX, especially the racing ones. They've gone really space age and compact and everything. And I look at it and I just can't understand why they look at them and they're so much better.
If you could put the two fastest people with the modern bike and the old bike, would there be much of a difference at the end of the race?
There isn't. So that's been done in America. I believe Dale Holmes was part of that.
Okay.
They actually trialled that theory. So the last Olympics, Dale Holmes brought in a bike called Divide, and as far as I'm aware, he was doing it for the Olympic team for the Great Britain. So he was releasing 24 bikes to them and one to himself. Well, I got lucky and sent Dale a message and said, hey, any chance we can get one of these frames and that? And he says, oh, we're only producing so many and they're gone. He goes, but we haven't started production yet, so let's see what we can do. So he actually sent me one of these frames. It's called a Divide. It's made by the GT company before they folded. So it was literally the last BMX to come out of GT. And as I said, it went, as far as I know, went through the Great Britain team, which Dale Holmes sort of manages and does a lot for them. So, yeah, he sent that over to me and I built that up, and that's a $7,000 bike as it sits. But that, to look at it, it looks old school. The way I've built it and components I've put on it, like, they're all new school, but it looks very old school. I sent a photo to Dale and he goes, what's that? I'm like, it's a Divide. He's like, no way. It just looks so old school. I showed a kid down the skate park one day. He was talking about his bike and he's like, oh, this is a $2,500 bike, and, you know, talking about it and like, what, and you're down here trashing it on a skate park. He's like, oh, yeah, it was built for. I'm like, yeah, a lot of money to be trashing. But anyway, I said, well, here's a $7,000 bike. And he looked at it and he goes, oh, that's old school. And I'm like, nah, it's very new school. Look, it's got a disc brake. And that's the only thing on it that resembles new school was a disc brake. And I'm going to tell you now, I hate it.
Yeah.
I hate the disc brake. It's got to go.
Is disc brake, is that the thing today? It's not rim brake, is it disc brake?
Disc brake for racing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't see the point in it. You know, for starters.
If you're not folding your rims, then rim brake should be fine if your rims are straight. I don't know.
You can clean them and you can do this, whereas disc brakes you can't. They get full of junk and, you know, they'll cut into the disc if you don't notice it. Like if you start a race and you brake 3 or 4 times, you can guarantee that disc is retarded if you got a bit of a stone in there or something. So, you know, there's a lot to change over, and if you're in a race meet, that's a lot of work. You know, you got to see
if you can send me some photos of some of these bikes.
Yeah, for sure.
We'll throw some over the top here. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it's just going out of where it needs to be. You know, it was meant to be a brutal sport. It's meant to be a tough sport. All off-road, everything else. It's not today. It's very laid back and very cushioned. So
it's just on to get faster and faster. It's like, you know, the tracks and everything today, it is bitumised. You know, everything's groomed and just flat out fast.
Yeah.
You know, those the Dolomite tracks and all the rest of it. You understand how Dolomite's going to react as you get into that turn, and the weather. It's rain today, it's dry today, it's hot and dusty, and you've raced to those conditions.
The worst one's hot and dusty, because Dolomite won't work with you, and it's just like rolling on marbles. But then that adds to the technicality of it all.
Yeah.
I'd rather get a gravel rash than a broken arm and have a bit of layer of skin ripped off, so to speak.
Yeah.
You know, even the clothes they have now, it doesn't protect them from it. Like a few of us older guys say they should be out there in leathers, because if they're hitting, you know, these 30, 40-foot jumps at 60 kilometres an hour, and if they come off, it's as good as being towed behind a motorbike on
you're just
Richmond
getting
Road.
skinned alive.
Yeah. So, yeah, but, you know, that's my opinion. I know a lot of people won't agree with it, but that's just where I think, you know, where it's at.
You've got a lot of experience. You're allowed to share your opinion, I reckon, you know.
Oh, yeah, you should be able to. I'm here to stick it up everyone a bit as well. So.
Why not? Revisit, if you don't mind. You said you've had a couple of health scares, which sound pretty scary and intimidating. You said you had a heart incident in COVID times.
Yeah, so right on when COVID hit, I had a heart attack, and was rushed.
That unrelated to vaccinations or anything like that, or
no? It was literally when it first hit. So right on the day when they started locking everything down, I'm rolling into hospital
with COVID or with a heart injury,
attack.
Separate, totally unrelated to COVID.
Totally unrelated. So yeah, it was only that a friend of mine. I was talking to her one night and I was telling her I had the shoulder pain. Wouldn't go away. I thought I slept wrong. And I carried this shoulder pain for years. So to me, it didn't really mean anything apart from I must have slept wrong to aggravate it. So I popped some Valium and, you know, whatever painkillers I could get, and sort of went and had a bath and everything. try to get the reside the pain, went to sleep. Next day came, I travelled from Victor Harbour all the way down to Port Caller. Got a steak sandwich at the Caban van on the way through. Best steak sandwiches in Adelaide, by the way, everybody. Give them a shout out.
Yeah.
Second best is Champion Cafe down at Christie's Beach. I'm a big food critic. So.
No, throw it out there. I got no problem sharing good comments.
Whenever I do this journey, I would always stop there and get a steak sandwich. And this particular day, I sort of took a bite or two, and I'm like, it's weird. I don't feel like it. I just had no appetite for it. And, you know, I look forward to it for my drive. Like, yep, stop at the van, get a steak sandwich. But this day it wasn't happening for me, and I was feeling very tired and just not feeling with it. So later that night I was talking to my friend, and she's like, oh, I think you're having a heart attack. I'm like, nah, it's just shoulder pain. And we're talking away, and she was about to head off to bed sort of thing, and she goes, oh, so you're going to go to hospital or not? And I'm like, nah, I think I'll just, take some painkillers, go to bed, see how I feel in the morning. And she's like, nah, you're going to hospital. If I'm going to lose any sleep, I'm going to come and kick your ass tomorrow sort of thing if you're not in hospital. I'm like, yeah, all right, you convinced me. I don't like to piss people off, but yeah, you convinced me. So I went into hospital, and they said, oh, yeah, they've connected me up to everything. And they're like, oh, we can't find anything. We discussed the pain again, and they're sort of shrugging it off as a heart attack. I didn't know. They're the doctors. All right. And it wasn't until they did a blood test that they picked up where my white cell count was. And they're like, oh, you've had a minor heart attack. We're just going to keep you here for the night. When flinders are ready for you, we'll send you down. So I was at Victor Harbour Hospital. I'm like, yeah, okay, no problem. Not thinking anything of it. So the night went through, and next morning the ambulance guys come in, and he's like, all right, off to hospital we're going. And he's talking to me, and I said, oh, are they ready for me, are they? And he's like, what? And I told him the story, and he's like, oh, no, we've just been told we've got to take you down there. And I said, well, not until they're ready for me, I've been told. So he went and asked a few questions. Anyway, he came back and he goes, oh, have they done a blood test? I said, oh, only about midnight. By this time, it's like 9 o'clock in the morning. So he went and got another blood test done, and my white cell came back like 960 out of 1,000, which is really high, which technically should have been clinically dead.
So it's gone from one extreme to the next.
Yeah, so it went from 400 to 500 to 960 was the final number. Next thing I know, there's this ambulance people just running me out of the hospital, load me in the ambulance, whacking everything all over me, and I'm like, is this necessary? And he goes, mate, you're not dead now, and I'm surprised you're not, but yeah, this is necessary. So I'm like, okay, went into panic mode straight away and contacted family and everything, just emotionally drained from it all, and, exploded with tears and everything because I thought this is it. Once he explained what was going on, I got really scared. So as we're going through the emergency, he's waving to everyone, the ambulance guy, and the emergency nurse is trying to say, hang on a minute. He's like, yeah, thank you. And he kept just running. Took me straight up to 6th floor into the surgery room, pushed this other guy out in front of me. He's like, oh, are you waiting for your turn, are you, to this other patient? He's like, yeah. All right. And pushed him to the back and put me in front, ran in and told the surgeon what was going on. And the surgeon came out and looked at me and went, all right, we'll get you in soon. So he got me on the table and put the camera through me, and he's like, mate, what are you doing here? I said, oh, apparently I'm having a heart attack. He goes, apparently? I'm like, well, yeah, I don't feel like I'm having one. And he goes, oh, well, you're having one. I said, well, like I said, I don't feel like it. I said to him, I feel like if you told me to go run around the oval, I'd run around the oval. And he goes, no, you won't. And I'm like, well, I feel like I could. I'm not feeling this. And he goes, you're kidding me, aren't you? And I'm like, no. So he had the camera in there, and he's scanning around my heart, and he goes, have a look at this. And he circled this black chamber, which accordingly was my heart. I'm like, oh, yeah. And he goes, now watch this. And he did something, and next thing, this cloudy smoke-looking thing just started pouring into this black chamber. He goes, see that? I'm like, yeah. He goes, that's your blood. I'm like, oh, okay. Not thinking anything of it. I'm, not
I don't know what I'm looking at. Yeah, that's it.
And he goes, now, and he pointed with the camera, like, look down here. And you can see this filter just filling and filling and filling. He goes, you had no blood in your heart. He goes, you should not be here. You should really be dead. And I'm like, oh, okay. I'm not believing what he's saying. And he's like, you're not comprehending this, are you? And I'm like, well, no. Because I'm here, yeah. And I feel perfectly fine. He's like, no. So anyway, that he put 2 stents in at that time. They kept me in for the weekend. And then Monday or Tuesday, I put another 2 in to get it all happening, which was a 6-month recovery. Leading up to it, I'd already quit alcohol, started getting my life into a more healthier phase, knowing I'm getting older. I start, getting fit and healthy again. So I actually took up racing again then. And now it's new school. So, we've got a new track, new everything, the new bike. And again, I wasn't out there to achieve anything apart from fitness and fun. So I was doing that for a couple of years leading up to the heart attack. So by this time, I'm like, I'm getting healthier, I'm getting fitter. And I'm even riding the bike, I didn't even notice if I was getting exhausted or anything like that. It just felt normal to me. So again, the heart attack took me away. It actually damaged my heart. So I was running on 48% heart. The rest of it was 52% was damaged. So that cut out cardio and anything like that. So I had to take a big step back from everything. And that's where the bike building and everything came into play. I couldn't give up my passion, so I had to fulfill it with something. And it was the whole Radelaide and this bike swap down at Semaphore that encouraged that. So I was already a part of all that, and I thought, well, you know what, if I can't do it, I'm going to do something that I'm going to enjoy doing. So, I did that for a while. As time went on, I thought I was improving, but I was actually going backwards. So just this year in April, I ended up back in hospital with heart failure. The heart had pretty much shut down, and my beats per minute were like 35 beats per minute. And again, they couldn't believe I was standing, walking, and all that, but it was getting worse and worse. My heart was drowning in fluid, was surrounded in fluid, and because it was already weak, it was struggling against that. This has been going on for 6 months apparently before it showed any real signs. But it's been for the better because they put a pacemaker in, and the pacemaker now is fully my heart. Without the pacemaker, I don't beat. When most of the time they're there to cut in when your heart's not coping, but this time not. The heart gave its last beat while it was going in. So I didn't die, but the heart did. But now it's improved everything, so that damage I originally had has now somewhat been fixed. So I can actually do a bit of cardio and get back on the bike and everything, which has been a bit of a godsend. I haven't done a lot, but I've been doing enough to, get the exercise going and test my limits to how far I can go. So before, if I went for a bike ride, I had to be very casual and I had to have someone with me. And, I'd be lucky to get 3 to 5 kilometres out of a bike ride before I'm exhausted and done for the day. Now I can do that 5 kilometres, take my dog for a walk for 5 kilometres, work all day and all that, and I don't really notice it until the weekend, but then that's 1 day rest and I'm up and ready to go again. So it has been a godsend for the pacemaker, come out the better.
And so now you recognise what your body's telling you a little bit more, or it's still a bit of a grey area? Like if the doctors have said, like on 2 occasions, you're saying, like, I kind of think I'm okay, and the doctors are going, no, you're not.
Well,
do you recognise something different in your body?
Yeah, I recognise a lot. So the moment they put the pacemaker in, the first day I noticed all the differences. So when your heart's not working at full capacity, it will cut down on things it doesn't think it needs to feed. So, if something's not important, it will just cut out on that. When time I got to hospital, I was in a bad state. My mental health was low. My memory was fading. Like, there's just so much going on. It was scary. It's really scary. And I didn't know. I just thought it was me and, the way the world's going, things that are happening around me. I thought it was just affecting mental health. Then I thought I just had all these different sicknesses. It wasn't I had different sicknesses because the heart wasn't feeding areas it was meant to. So it made me more vulnerable to sicknesses and things. So for 6 months I was in and out of doctors and scans and everything, and they just never picked it up. Not saying that's their fault, but if you're not, it's like a car. If you're not looking in the right area, you're not going to find the damage. And because we weren't looking at the heart, to me, my heart still felt fine, but it wasn't. It was actually deteriorating, which was deteriorating everything else in my health.
And you had emotional stuff going on behind all
everything
of that
going
as
on.
well.
Well, I'm
You
a
know, it's
funeral
hard to
director
know.
as well. I should add that in. I was a funeral director at the time this all started.
Okay.
So, you know, emotions are high, yeah.
You're seeing people on their worst days, you know?
Yeah.
The best and worst, you know?
Yeah,
I don't know. It depends how you
exactly.
look at it, you know? If you can give someone a good
So
farewell,
I
do
took
that.
a step back on that because my health wasn't good and I couldn't perform. So, yeah, I left that job to somewhat help my health, but I went into another job in the background in the funeral industry to keep some money coming in, but it wasn't as demanding. But even then, I could still notice my health deteriorating. So it came to the point of, all right, I've got to look after my health, and stepped out of the work industry. And it was only, you know, a matter of weeks before I pretty much came to a halt.
Yeah.
So they put me on the, I forget the name of it, that new injection they got that helps you with weight loss and diabetes.
Oh,
and
one of those Ozempics or something like that. Yeah.
So they put me on that, even though when I asked about it when it first came out, he said, oh, I wouldn't recommend it for your heart. And I actually put it off. Someone was saying to me, oh, you don't need this, you don't need this. And then one day I went, oh, bugger, I'll do it. You know, it's going to help me lose weight and everything because I can't do cardio. I'll give it a shot, you know, what can go wrong? Well, so 24 hours later, I'm trying to go to bed and I've gone to bed and I've woken up literally with no breath and struggled for a few minutes to breathe. And that was okay. So I went back to sleep and everything, didn't think anything of it. That was a common thing anyway for me, like, to happen. And then the next night it happened again, but it was a little bit longer this time, but still not enough to panic. So I sort of let it be. Third night, I woke up. I could not breathe. I was literally like waving like this, trying to get some air into me. I thought it was my lungs on their way out. And yeah, my hands and legs and everything were going purple. I put it down to the heart, and we've got this spray that you spray under your tongue and it opens up all your arteries and everything. Well, 15, 20 minutes, I couldn't find it. I keep one of these things everywhere I go, and this night it was nowhere in sight. I have one beside my bed, I have one in the kitchen, you know, carry one everywhere I go because it's a lifesaver for me. So anyway, I finally got that into me and everything felt all right. And I'm like, oh, okay, it was a heart trouble. And the only time I go to the hospital was if I can't get better from that spray. So if I have a spray and 20 minutes later I'm not in a good way, straight to hospital.
Yeah.
But in 20 minutes I came good and, you know, sat up for a little while just to make sure I was all right. Then I went to sleep. The next morning I went to work and I was trying to work and I just kept breaking out in sweat, short of breath, all this. And part of me's like, oh, shit, COVID. Another part of me's like, something's not right. So I ended up finishing work early and I went down to the urgent care and he didn't, well, not that he didn't, you meant to go to a triage nurse first to get assessed and then they put you into the doctor to say, well, this is what we're looking at. That didn't happen and he overlooked anything to do with my heart and he just went, oh, yeah, your chest is clear. Might be, you might have an underlying chest infection or, what was the other one? Chest infection or shadow ammonia, which is a hard one to detect unless it's a full flare. So he's, oh, we'll just give you some Promisolone and antibiotics, and if you're not better by Friday, come back. All right, so I started that. Still had to go to work. I need money to come in. And every day it was just getting worse and worse and worse to the point on the third or fourth day, I think it was the third day, I was really struggling. I was trying to hold myself up, breaking out in these sweats. Couldn't breathe or anything, just in a really bad way. Anyway, I sort of left it alone and said to work, oh, I won't be back for the rest of the week. I'll go get this checked out on Friday when they said just get it checked out. And then, yeah, come Friday and the nurse was doing my blood pressure and you could see her. She's looking at the monitor weirdly. And then she did it again. Then she did manual. And she did it again. You know, did this 3 or 4 times. And she goes, is your heart rate normally low? And I don't know, how low? And she's like, 35 beats. I'm like, yeah, no, not that low.
That's low.
Yeah, and she's like, I thought so. And then next thing I know, yeah, I'm off to hospital. And they're giving me the last amendment. And I think we're not going to be able to promise you an outcome of this because the heart's already in a bad way. We're going to do everything we can to keep you alive. but you might want to contact family and friends and all that because, we can't promise an outcome. So they're leaning towards pacemaker or open heart surgery. That was a bit scary. Anyway, 24 hours and they literally had me under the knife 11 a.m. when they cut me open just as a bugle started sounding on Anzac Day. So that was a bit of a moment as well. And I just sort of said to whoever was up there, like, hey, not today. This isn't my day. This is their day.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be on a day that everyone's going to remember. I'd rather be apart from Anzac Day, birthdays, Australia Day, whatever, just any day but not that day. It was just weird. But I had them in laughter because the whole time I was asking the doctor if I could watch what was going on. He's like, no, you can't watch what's going on. Oh, come on.
You've got to
let
be
me.
unconscious.
No, they couldn't knock me out. I was too much of a risk.
Okay.
And it would have taken too long. So that, literally an hour in surgery, my heart just gave out. So if they tried to knock me out, that were hour. And
so they didn't perform open heart surgery or anything like that in the end?
No, just cut me open, put a pacemaker in.
Okay.
Which was the best result, obviously.
My mum said open heart surgery, so I know.
Yeah, that's full on.
Fucking shit scared.
Yeah, no, I don't want to go down that path.
Yeah.
So, that's that story.
Crazy.
But that was scary as it was on my
so
last legs.
How do you keep positive? Or maybe that's not the right question. I don't know. At the moment, you're in that situation, you're just surviving minute by minute, second by second. Looking back on it, if someone else is scary or concerned about their own health, what would you say to someone if they're listening to this and going, oh, fucking that sounds
So I'm starting my own funeral home, which is Aftercare Funeral Advisory and Services. If you'd like to elect that as your person to take care of you.
There you go.
But honestly, it's about remaining calm, thinking of the positive. So my thing that kept me going, and this ain't a word of a lie, was to watch BMX and skateboarding on YouTube. And the song I was playing in hospital was Heaven Was a Half Pipe. And I know it's a skateboard song, but technically it can be a BMX song as well. But that's what I was going out with, Heaven Was a Half Pipe. And, to me, I was planning what was going to happen after that if I didn't pull through, which I know you can't have control once you're through, but I don't know. I must have known because 2 weeks leading up to it, I started preparing things in a weird way. So I gave my best mate a GT Performer for nothing. Here you go, $1,800 bike, complete, like brand new. You can have that. And he's like, well, no, I'll pay for it. I went, yeah, all right. He's like, just agreed with him because we're not going to argue over it, but I was never going to take any money from him. So I unloaded other things in different places and got rid of some things, tidied up some stuff, did a bit more for Mum so that in my head, I don't know why I was doing it, but obviously I was preparing for the time without actually having knowledge and talking to other people that have been in that near phase. We must know because a lot of people I've spoken to are like, yeah, I started preparing too. I didn't know what I was preparing for. But I was so prepared since my first heart attack that I left all my preparation behind. So I've got a bag that I take everywhere. So at any moment I've got to go to hospital. I've got charger on me. I've got things on me that are going to keep me occupied in hospital. I didn't have any of it. And then, my mate, he really stepped up and, he took very good care of me even when I got out of hospital. They were like, you can't go home on your own. You got someone to look after you. I didn't know at the time he was going to do it. But, he really did look after me. And I'm like, well, bike just paid for itself.
And so how are you going with everything now? How are you feeling now? You good?
I'm heaps better. I've got a way better mindset. I've got a good positive drive, motivated, stuff I didn't have beforehand. I was going the opposite way and I couldn't control it. But it was all related to the heart. Once all this settled and everything, my mindset changed. And even now when I have a gloomy day, it is literally a day where I'll be in the down and out, but it could be the worst day I'm in as well.
Are you listening to music like on that down day, what are you doing? Or do you listen to a podcast and listen to music? Do you?
I watch Rad the movie. I watch Thrashin' the movie. I watch anything that I can relate to take me away from any particular thoughts or anything that might be bringing me down. So I reflect on my positive outlooks of life in life, the things that have always kept me going. And BMX and skateboarding are those things. I know a lot of people say that, but, you know, it's that much of a passion for me that even in my funeral, like for example, my funeral service hopefully is going to be at Happy Valley or Sam Willoughby track. 2 of my best bikes are going to be there. I'm setting up a side hack to carry coffins, so that'll be a part of my coffin carry or anyone else's in the time that it happens. So, you know.
Is this related to you said funeral business? You just mentioned that is what you are established or you are establishing?
Establishing, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So all this time I've had off, I've been gathering everything I need to do that quietly in the background.
So what is that? Tell us more about that.
The business or the gathering?
Yeah, no. It sounds like you've got an idea of something that a person in your situation would go, oh, that is fucking awesome. Like, yeah, I want that service. Like,
well,
what is it?
Again, I just want to give the best I can to people and give them the care they deserve. And I'm not going to run any other company down.
Because you've been experienced in the funeral home business. You've got experience in this, and now this is separate to that, and you've just put a little twist on.
I've put big twists on it, and I'm bringing it to a more modern stage. I can keep the traditional stuff, but I'm offering things that people can't offer. So in the last 2 years, a lot of people in the BMX scene have passed away, unfortunately. And at young ages.
It is our generation. It's our generation. Yeah.
It is. At the ages of 50 and all that, they're dropping off slowly, unfortunately. So I want to be able to give something to those people that nobody else can offer or even have thought about. And I know all us guys in BMX are hooked on it.
So you go. This one. Sorry, keep going. Stop.
So yeah, like all our generation are hooked on those things. Other funeral companies are very old-fashioned, so they'd frown upon something like that, so to speak, or wouldn't know where to start the process to offer something like that. My funeral is all set out. It's all covered.
So you're going on a side hack?
Yeah, I'll be going on the side hack. Yeah. And it'll either be on the start mound of Happy Valley or be in the club room at Sam Willoughby. That's the plan.
Yeah.
I prefer Happy Valley only because, it's an old traditional track and I've done a lot of work on that track over the years. So to me, it's a part of me and I think it'd be a really good send-off.
Well, I hope the community... Well, don't be in a rush. Don't be in a rush to get there.
No.
But hopefully, this conversation, if it's 10 years' time, that we can honour that.
Well, we're looking at 10 to 20 years.
There you go.
Which is a 10 to 20 years more than I had 6 months ago.
Good 20-year plan.
But I don't know. I've got a big passion in the industry. I sort of fell into it, funny enough, and adapted to it like a duck to water. And I know it sounds funny, but I enjoy what I do, and I like to be able to do that part for people. But I've also learned a lot of medical stuff in the process of it because what I say is, like, I'm not the doctor, I'm just the after person. And that's where the name Aftercare came in. Just the thought process of that created the name. And I can do from the beginning to the end and everything in between. A lot of people will have a lot of different hands on that in the process, which it's not a bad thing because everyone's, experienced and professional at what they do. But the beauty of me is I can be asked at any time, how is my loved one going or whatever, and I can answer that honestly.
Okay, shush.
And know exactly where their loved one is at in the process. And
the legal things, we've got to do it properly this way, got forms to sign and things to do and how to approach that in a timely and heartfelt manner, as well.
Yeah. So I've managed a lot of businesses. I created a gardening business for a while. Was doing bike maintenance during COVID when people couldn't go anywhere. So I was a mobile in the Flurio, called it COVID Cycles, and just did it through the COVID process because people needed their bikes. Because when the government went, hey, you can ride your bike and all that, it really blew out. It did. Everyone, before you knew it, people were like, oh, can you come fix me old bike? I want to go for a ride. And you get there and everything's rusted out. You're like, yeah, no worries. Carry a bike stand and all my tools in the back and just go to work on their
send you
property.
home with a couple of my bikes this afternoon. Let's see how busy you are.
Give it another week. Got a lot on this week. So yeah, everything I've done with the heart and in the funeral industry, it's been a really big eye opener in the world. It's added to everything I've tried to do and what I've taken away out of everything else I've done in life. I've never been one to stay in one position as a job. Always been one to start something, get so far with it, and then I'll jump onto another employer or something, find something closer to home or something that adds more to what I'm doing. So I did fruit and veg for like 20 years of my life. That was exciting and interesting. Did 10 years in the central market. So that was an experience on its own, which gave me the profession of fruit and veg. And what you see on the shelf today is just disgusting. I can't look at it and think, oh, yeah, I want that on my plate. And it goes against everything I was taught. So, one of the first things I was taught is if you wouldn't eat it, you don't put it on the shelf. You can't expect everyone else to eat it. Now, I don't know why anyone can't understand that concept today, but, you walk into places and some of that stuff is just, disgusting.
Poor quality of food that they're still selling at top prices.
Yeah, at top prices. So, that was disappointing. But at that time of life, so I went from fruit and veg and worked in fish and chip shops, pizza bars. I've literally had a hand in everything. I've been a landscaper, funeral director. This just goes on. I don't think there's anything apart from being a doctor or any of the teacher or anything like that. And I haven't crossed. But the knowledge is there enough to help others with whatever they try and achieve.
Well, I'll definitely put a link to your funeral opportunities there that you're working. I'll make sure that they're going to be listed in the comments when we get this podcast out there. I'm more than happy to spruik that.
Appreciate that.
Who are some people you'd like to give some shout outs to? Like you've had a lot of wonderful people in your life, it sounds like. It's hard to put names on them, but there's a few that stand out. Like I'm not in a rush. Cameras are still running.
Some of the BMX guys, David Woolard, Stephen Davies. Even though Jesse and Shane Naglawada were younger than me, I looked up to them. They were going places. They really were, even at a young age. You could just see that in them. Did I mention Stephen Davies? Donald Kluber, which I class him as my best mate. He's maybe my longest mate, and we've been mates for 40-odd years now. And as I said, he helped me out when I most needed it. Who else is there? Then there's the old guys in the BMX scene, like Nobby Thomas.
Yes, I do. Is he still around? Is Nobby still around?
No, he passed last year,
amazing,
unfortunately.
His commentary at the races.
He's just an amazing man all over.
Yeah.
He really was, and he was the type as well. Like, he loved the racing. He loved the everything behind racing. But he really loved anything that kids enjoyed. He had a
great heart.
He did. He had a huge heart.
And his commentary and his wording.
Yeah, you could talk to him about anything. I played basketball, so him and these few other guys, there was only two of them from the BMX club. All a bunch of old guys. I can't remember what they called the basketball team, but I was part of basketball at Morphle Vale Stadium, them just social teams and that. And this one night I'm waiting for my partner to finish umpiring, and these guys walk out, and all these old guys, and they look like 2-year-olds trying to throw a basketball into the ring, and they had no idea what was going on. And I'm watching it, and I'm like, hang on a minute, I know that bloke. And I looked a bit harder, and it was Nobby. I went over and snuck up on him and I'm like, what the hell are you doing out here? You know, wouldn't you rather be playing netball or something? Just giving him a hard time. And so I ended up joining their team and helping them to learn a bit about basketball and improve their game. And that went on for a while. So that was good fun. I can't remember. I'm thinking the Delinquents, but I don't think it was that. I think it's more the Degenerates. was the name of the team. So, you know, he played a big part in my life. Dorothy Braithwaite, she was awesome in the BMX scene. Again, didn't matter what it was. She sort of had a finger on the pulse of it all. Peter Moyle, of course, he played a big part in my life, not even just BMX. He's somewhat of someone I've reflected on when it comes to businesses and management. The little things he would tell me during life, you know, and I just take it on board. My dad wasn't there, so anyone, a male that, you know, was successful was a role model, and I'll just take bits and pieces from them and put my life together, so to speak. But a lot of what I do in business is carried from Peter Moyle and a couple of other blokes that I've worked for or been around in business type industry. But yeah, Peter Moyle played a big part in my life, even from a young age. When he first opened that Standish Cycles in Westlakes, can't remember if that was 78 or 80, somewhere around there. I was only a kid. Mum and Dad used to shop there all the time. So when I'd walk in, look at all these chrome, beautiful bikes hanging in the window and that'd lose me. I'd keep walking and I'd just stand back, or I'd be in the shop. And Peter'd be like, what are you doing in here? Looking.
Dreaming.
And he'd give me a hard time about looking. Well, don't come in here unless you got money, sort of thing. Big joke on him. And I'm like, oh, sorry.
Yeah.
You know, but then it became a thing, and he goes, oh, hiding from the parents again, are you? I'm like, nah, I noticed you got the new red line. Big chrome thing, just absolutely beautiful. So our relationship started back then and just kept carrying through until pretty much his time. The things that he did for the sport and everything was just amazing, and nobody ever picked it up. Nobody carried on what he left behind, and that's why it changed so much in Australia. Like, nobody realised how much he had going on in the sport, whether it was, you know, jumping, skate parks, whatever. Like, if you wanted to make something happen, Peter was a good person to have behind you. A lot of the stuff I did in Morpeth Vale, he actually helped me get that started as far as track building and everything. I'd talk to him and then he'd put in a good word behind me as my support.
He'd always support me and stop my videos and clothes, and when we'd have at events, like he was a fantastic.
He's a teddy bear of BMX, I say, or even bicycling, because he had his hand on it all.
Yeah.
And I understand his concept. Like, the more that he encouraged or supported, obviously the more business he's going to bring in. So he was right on it. He knew what he was doing.
Yeah. But it was always for everyone else first. It wasn't
100%.
He wasn't first.
100%.
Yeah.
Like, you know, there's so many things he did for me and didn't even put a price tag on it. You know, I after his computer recordings of who's buying bikes and things, in that time I bought 52 bikes, he told me. You know, kids' bikes and everything. And I wasn't just buying for me. I was buying for family, you know, brother or my partner's brothers and that. Like, oh, Tony, we need a bike. Can you go chase one up for me? Yep, sure.
You know what we need.
Yeah, I'd go down to Peter and go, right, this is what I need. What price can you offer us? And I need not huge amounts of.
Yeah.
Like my Diamondback, I bought that because I was riding a Chrome Molly red line for a while. This Diamondback was aluminium, and I decided, you know what, I want to take myself to the next level in racing, so I want to get something a bit better and everything. And yeah, there was this Diamondback, and that was $1,400 originally, and then it went on sale for $1,200, and he let me have it for $800. You know, that was where the bike shop sponsorship came in. You pretty much make $100 or $200 out of it compared to what he could have made out of it.
To see this passionate kid fucking have a
All
crack.
that time I was an adult.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Big kid.
Yeah. And I did. I continued to support him all the time, and it wasn't just because of that. It was just the knowledge that came with it. South Coast Cycles, a little bit of involvement with them, but they couldn't give me what Peter was giving me, especially when it came to the cost. So, yeah, he put a lot into me to help me get to where I wanted to be, and my kids and everything else. So, big hats off to him. And, yeah, I've actually taken on board part of what he has done. I'd like to take it further. I'd like to do a lot more. But the industry just doesn't work that way anymore. Oz Cycling, you've got a cap on everything. And if you can't get it past them, you're not going to get it past at all. So I was doing recognition awards and different little things, sponsorships, and I started this logo FTC, Fast Track Cycling, and that was about recognising people in the sport that have put into the sport, been around for a long time and never really been recognised. People like Anthony Dean, Dorothy Braithwaite, Sharon Watson, and a lot of names that have been around for a long time, which I think somewhat promote the sport because they're there all the time. They're giving their best every time. Then people know them because they are there all the time and doing all that. It's not about how quick they are or how stylish they are. It's about, well, hey, they turn up every week and they put in 100%. So I decided I'll start giving to the sport. And it didn't really take off the way I was hoping it to. So the last time I recognised anyone, I got a threatening email from somebody in Oz Cycling to tell me if I did it again, they were calling the police and treating me as an activist. And I had a bit of an argument with them and said, well, I don't know how you can call me an activist when I'm actually giving.
Promoting a positive member of the sport. Yeah.
So he kept going and he kept threatening. So I pulled myself away from that. I went down the sponsorship line for a while, started a page, FTC Crew, to somewhat support it. The idea was for me to not so much sponsor them, but donate to the cause. So if they had a big event coming up or something, I'd put some money in towards them to help them get there or get whatever they need to achieve that. And all I wanted in return was to put something on my page. I set up this page full of people that will sponsor people. So it was there to promote the page as well as promote themselves. I'm one that you don't just get handouts without putting something back in. Yep. No control over anything else. All I wanted was that bit of, hey, FTC donated this money and I was able to go overseas or whatever, buy a new tyre.
Recognition, yeah.
I wouldn't give anything less than $250 per rider, again, depending on the cause. But nobody followed through with that. They'd take the money, they'd give me an update of what's happening and everything, but they wouldn't put it on the page. And I'd be like, just put that on the page. I can see it on the page. Don't, because it's about promoting yourselves. Yep. If you put it on the page and they can see that, look, last year you got third, this year you got first, there's people there going to go, you know what, I'm going to sponsor that person. And you're going to get more out of that sponsor than what you had out of me over donation. So I swung over to Findon Skid Kids. I went down there because there was a lot going on at that time. And because Tammy Clark played a big part in BMX for a long time, I went down and talked to her about, what am I doing wrong? Why isn't this working the way it should? She didn't understand it either. But I started doing it for Skid Kids. Put a lot of money into them, sponsored events and sponsored riders to go to the Worlds in UK in that last year. And that was working really good, but now my finances have dropped. I'm unable to do it at the moment. But it was disappointing because at the end of the day, I wasn't asking for anything back, and I was happy doing what I was doing. It's not like, I give someone $250 and then go up to them and go, I gave you $250. I expect you to do this and that and this and that. Before I've given it to them, I'm like, this is all you got to do. It's all you got to do. So that put a bit of a damper on it all. Yeah. I started the logo. The idea was to print hoodies and T-shirts and all that to raise money. Majority of that money was going back into that cause, and then the rest of it was going to go towards riders and future things. Try and get a Red Bull label, so to speak, to where I can sponsor events and create events. But it just never took off. So I still somewhat sit on that name, and
Seems a lot harder today. Like we used to run comps back in the day, and I just thought it would continue. I thought you'd have young kids BMX dirt jump comps from 2000 to whenever, and it kind of did it didn't keep going that way.
I can tell you what part of the problem was, is there wasn't enough promotion, not enough advertising to let people know it was there. And then, like, so for example, the whole novice thing and everything, you know, that was great. But then you get kids fearing off and thinking, oh, well, I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
So technically we needed to promote them.
That's the future of the sport.
That's
is
right.
The beginners that have no
That's
skills
it.
yet.
To give them the incentives to go, oh, you know what, I can be a part of this.
Yeah.
I'm not being, you know, shone upon or...
Because you're comparing yourself against a pro that does a double backflip tail. It's like, no, that is no. I just want to jump the jump and land safely.
Have a bit of style and
turn the bar.
And then the whole pressure of, oh, but the people will be watching me and all that. Like, I believe if it kept happening, you probably would have got that. Like, it's a long process. It's not
see the young kids like do the schoolboys comps, and now 30 years later, oh, I was in that little comp and that was cool. It's like it would have been cool to have continued that.
The same as skateboarding though, you know. Like,
I was speaking to Eric at MV2 and the scene's different today. You know, it is.
He's awesome, Eric.
And unfortunately, I don't think it's as good as what it was in our day.
I think we need to blow it out. I really do. And so, you know,
maybe we'll bring it back.
Small talk with Eric, a little bit of talk with you now, but I would like to be a part of something like that. And what I was putting across to Eric is if we do like a wheels comp, and if we have it somewhere like Seafood where there's a bit of dirt next door, we could have dirt jumping, we could have skating, street, and all that at the same time.
The councils used to provide the dirt, all the kamikazes and the Skate 98. That was council that would provide that.
Yeah,
I'm sure if we get again, it's man hours doing the stuff.
100%.
Maybe if the kids today were interested, maybe we could.
I'd like to see it happen.
Yeah, it'd be good to do a little something.
The other one I like to see happening in it is the roller skaters. Like, these roller skaters that are coming back in now are just insane. You know, we remember roller skaters as more speed rink and, you know, mucking around in a skate rink.
Well, it looks on that favourably as the fruit booters. You know?
Yeah, but now they're doing all this insane stuff, hand plants, backflips and everything. Like,
skills. That's the way that's the
and
my
it looks
wheels.
so good.
Yeah.
And I thought, you know what, and I know there's a lot of roller skaters around South Australia. So if we blew out a big comp like that, we
combine everything together.
Over a long weekend or something, separate it to work, I think that alone would promote itself. Because anything we get, we're going to get on.
Because there is no competition. If you are competitive, the only way you can show how good you are is to compete.
That's right.
You can ride all day at the skate park and do your moves.
Or become an influencer.
But if you actually want to see how you line up next to the other guy, you know, you need a competition.
100%. So I'd like to see that happen a bit more. My dream is to, you know, have skate parks next to every nursing home. So when I end up in a nursing home, I can just stare out the window and watch skateboarding and everything.
I reckon I've heard, I don't know if Tony Hawk or someone has done something like they've set a facility in the States where they've done something similar. I haven't heard about that yet. I think there is something that these guys, actually, 50 plus nursing home. It's like we're still skating at 50, 60.
I know, they're insane. They got me back on the board.
Yeah.
So that's what I've been doing, little bits and pieces over the last 6 years because I couldn't do that cardio.
Yeah.
I've just been putting myself on a board and, you know, doing little things.
I could never skate.
Just to keep me moving.
Didn't have that much skill.
I was always swapping between the two. If I didn't ride, I skated, or I was doing it both. So back when Seaford first got built, I was rocking up there with a bike and a skateboard, and, you know, I'd pull out a skateboard and all the bikers would just, you know, look at you like fucking skaters. And then I'd go pull out a bike and the skateboarders would be like, fucking bike rider, BMX.
They were poles apart.
And it was only this one day, one skater said to me, he goes, what are you doing on both? You're either a skater or you're a bike rider. And I'm like, dude, I'm into both.
You can be both.
I'm a bit of an extremist. I like wheels and I like airs and all that. And, you know,
it's like BMX and mountain bike. Oh, we're not friends. It's like we can all be friends.
That's silly. Yeah, there should be. And I used to ride my bike and all the mountain bike stuff, BMX.
Yeah.
You know?
And now I think we are all friends. I don't know. I think skate. I don't know.
I think it's
I get
because
the
a lot of
impression
BMX went over to mountain bike.
skate, BMX, mountain bike, rollerbladers, scooters. You know, we
See,
can all
like
be
Steve
friends.
Caballero,
Yeah.
he's now doing dirt jumps and
Yeah.
everything. He's,
Yeah.
62
Yeah.
years of age, and he only picked up a bike because Eddie Fiola got him out there, you know.
Seen some of his
So,
stories,
yeah, they do go hand in hand, I reckon.
Yeah.
They've got the same
It's
discipline.
a bit of a brotherhood, you know, a bit of a rabbly bunch of kids that are really good people and just like physically challenging themselves to the point of severe pain and injury.
100%, 100%.
Yeah.
So, yeah, my passion's always there. It doesn't matter my opinion. I'm still very passionate about it. And I like to try and be involved where I can. So, before this whole Sam Willoughby thing blew out, and when they first started, like, okay, I admit that I was probably being a bit of a dick, but I contacted the builder and I'm like, mate, you're doing it all wrong. You seriously are. And he sort of shut me down and said, oh, what are you talking about? You don't know what you're talking about. If you could do better, why didn't you put in a tender for it and everything else? Well,
there's some heat around that right now.
Oh,
yeah.
And it's not necessary. And the problem is the council don't want to put any more money into it. They've put so much money into it.
It sounds like it has been built in the wrong place. We're not going to go, I don't want to give it too much attention because I think it's pretty disappointing, you know, but it just seems like it was wrong from the get-go and they displaced a healthy BMX club for a non-existent one today. Like it's a pretty sad disappointment. And it's unfortunate that Sam's got his name attached to it.
It is because it's not reflecting him.
No.
It's not what Sam's about.
No.
But, you know, going back to my argument with the builder, if he had made those few changes that I told him to make, it wouldn't be in the position it's in now. It's not a matter of repairing it. The corners have got to be changed. And that's probably the biggest expense of it all. And, you know, it was meant to be a $4.2 million project. It blew out to 6.5. So,
and you still can't ride on it.
Still can't ride on it. So the government and the council would turn around and go, well,
generation of my kid was coming up and they were in that environment and here's this for the next 4 years this is going to be great, and 4 or 5 years have gone by and you've left the sport altogether in the meantime.
It was an unfortunate failure. But it
should be held accountable. I don't know. Someone should be held accountable for that.
Well, the thing
not
is,
accountable,
if the council allow people to get in there and volunteer, rather than trying to employ somebody and paying all this money, and the next person that goes in, he's going to charge above and beyond because he's fixing somebody else's mistake. Same as a mechanic will. If you take a car into a mechanic,
wrong. If the base level's wrong,
that's
you can't keep building.
When I was working on my own cars, mechanic wouldn't go near it if I stuffed something up.
There's a couple of bricks missing at the bottom of the wall. You can't just keep fixing the top of it.
No. But, you know, it's got the potential to be a good track. It
does.
Should have had the potential at the beginning. But again, you know, they had 2 years to do it, and then they rushed it at the end. That's nobody's fault but how it was planned and done, you know. But in all my years of building tracks, it never took that long to build a track, and we were just using shovels and stuff. So I don't understand where 2 years went to then be smashed together in 6 months and still not have it correct. You know, we'd put a lot of man hours back in the day in shaping berms and jumps and everything. You know, every Sunday I'd be at the track at 8 o'clock in the morning just watering and getting everything prepared for racing. That's why I never did a gate practice. Too busy maintaining the track or getting my kids ready to ride. You know, that was important to me, not the race. Sure, I'd ride and I'd race, but...
Yeah. Give us some for the community. Everyone gets to share.
I just got a passion. And then, you know, the Cove was looked beautiful there at one stage. When I turned up, all the dolomite was all washed off and down the bottom when I turned up in 91 and all that. And 98 wasn't much better. So straight away in 98, I just grabbed a rake and started raking and everything. People were like, what are you doing? We're making this track better. Yeah. You know, and it turned into a beautiful track. Yeah. I think it was 99. Dave Willard came down and re-sculptured it all. There was a heap of us in there. But he was the main excavator and digger driver. He had all the knowledge in the world for it. And then, he's building those big doubles that are absolutely massive that you could use as a dirt jump, not as a race jump. You know, I've got photos of me jumping the canteen corner. I'm 4 feet above a little kid. You know, so those things were just insane, but it had good flow, and that's where was heading.
Yeah.
But now they're just jamming everything in there. And I get the technicality, but the way they do it is it's not right. There's a geometry to building a track.
Yeah.
And you've got to get it right from the word go. It's no good to say, all right, we can put an 8 metre start hill and this jump 40 feet gap and all that. The geometry is you got to work out the speed it's going to travel, distance you'll travel to make it as safe as you can and to allow these guys to put in their best and their fullest.
And progress the sport.
The sport. I've got designs somewhere at home that I drawn out in 98 and 2000 that shit all over the tracks today.
Yeah.
If I put it out, people would just blow away. Like it was the future.
Yeah.
So, like London and that, where they jump the berm for the main straight, I've got all that in my designs. But in my designs, they work and they're challenging as well. So, it'd be good to get something like that to then set that level for racing, not just keep adding and then working out, that doesn't work and that doesn't work. So this polymer, like it's good in a way, but it's not, because you can't make those frequent track changes. If you can't make the frequent track changes, you're never going to get improvement in your riding. So the idea in racing is you should be able to change a track at least once every 2 years, if not more. You want to give the riders something different every time.
Yeah. Change the finish straight.
That's right. That's why my discipline was all over the place. I'd go from dirt jumping to skate parks to riding mountain bike trails to then rock up at a BMX track and go, well, this is easy because I've just rode the hardest. There was one time there in racing, we all came out of the first turn of the Cove. It was 4 of us, 4 wide. Which is unusual for our age group. And I was on the inside, but I was getting squeezed out. And as you come out of the first berm, it went to a step up and then to a double. It was a double. But that first double literally only had a 1.5 foot rise, and then it dropped down to like 4 or 5 feet. It was a funny little jump. Anyway, I've come in there with 4 wide. I've only just made it, and I'm sitting right on the white line on the inside coming into the second double. And the tracks back then, they go from, say, 4 metres wide down to 3 metres wide. So in that area, you go from your 4 metres to 3 metres. So I'm running out of track now. So I've had to literally hit the second double, and launch out over the grass. So I'm literally away from the jump and then come back in, and somehow I did that and got myself in front of all the other riders and took control of the race. To this day, I don't really know how I did it, but if I wasn't doing all those other things behind the scenes, I probably would never have done it. Yeah. But I was 2 feet out of the track in the air. Like, wish I had got video footage of it. All the riders just blew away that were next to me.
Do you have a favourite moment in your BMX racing period? Is the times you've come and gone? Is there a time that you're looking back to go, win, loss or draw? That day was a really good day.
My most favourite moment was my kids. So when my children were young, 3 and 4, coming into racing, I got them out of there. My daughter was on training wheels, 3 years of age. My son just come off a training wheels at 4 years of age when I got him out on the racetrack. My daughter was actually known to be the youngest at that time in South Australia to ever race BMX. Well, I used to run around with them, but I'd pick them up and make them do 360s and pancakes and half backflips and stuff. My daughter was just absolutely like, she'd be in hysterics. Everyone on the sideline would be like, oh, my God, what's he doing with that kid? Oh, you better not drop it, and things like that. And I was just going for it. I've got a photo of that. But, yeah, in my arms, she'd be like, just giggling away. And, oh, Dad, let's do this jump and let's do that jump. So I'd mimic it. Like, this one day, Happy Valley,
picking the bike up and holding them by the collar of the short, the scruff of the shirt,
flick her out, big cross up. She gave it. She's doing it all, but I had control. Yeah. But this one day is actually quite funny. I think that was a Southern Stampede as well. This is in later era, obviously. It's not as big as what it was back in the 90s and so on. But so this one race, I'm running around with her, and I've done it again, and I've picked her up, and I was actually waiting because the child next to her was pedaling, and was in front of her. So I didn't let her somewhat beat her because she was getting my help. So I saw it as cheating if I did anything to help and beat him. So I'd actually take my time and, spin her around 360 or tip her upside down in the air, things like that. And this one day, one of the mums that was running around with her daughter just to make sure she was okay, this is the one that I made sure my daughter wasn't beating. Yeah. So I've picked my daughter up, and I'm doing this jump, and I've just placed her on top of the landing of the jump, and I'm literally placed her there, and I held her there for the mother and her daughter to come through. Like I said, the other child was doing it on her own, so I wasn't going to interfere with that. So I've stopped, and as the child's gone past, the mother's like turned to me and she's like, rah, 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 like screamed at me. And I went, "Oh, Sally, how you going?" And she just sort of dropped her mouth and I'm like, "Huh?" And she looked and she's like, "Oh, bloody you." Anyway, it was an old school friend from bloody 15 years ago or something. I'll just never forget that moment. It was funny and it caught her off guard. But yeah, it became talk of South Australia, the things I was doing with the kids.
Yeah.
Mount Gambier, everyone was just on the sideline watching when we were doing the SA versus Vic and waiting for what's he going to get her to do this time, So that was pretty awesome. Yeah. And I missed that, which was another part that took me away from it. My kids weren't doing it anymore, so I lost that incentive for it.
Yeah.
Wasn't any fun without them there.
A sense of community and you're surrounded by people that just love doing the same thing that you love doing.
That's right. Yep. And I never wanted anything in return for it, like anything I did around the track and that. Bit of recognition would have been nice, but at the end of the day, I did it for my passion, not for everyone else's. And again, because I've done so much with tracks, I took on the maintenance side. I've got to the point there I'd pretty much maintain every track in South Australia when big meets were coming on and everything. Plus, there was club guys that were doing it, but I can guarantee I'd be out there with a rake or shovel.
Part of the team. Yeah.
Oh, I just like doing it.
Well, wrapped that I've got to give you the opportunity to share some of these stories with us here today. Like it's really been cool. Like, you've shared a heap of knowledge, a heap of stuff I don't know about, and hopefully a few listeners that we have are going to enjoy this conversation
some of them might blush after calling their names.
Yeah. But look, my cameras are nearly dying. Everything's starting to go flat here, Tony. Cool. I reckon we're going to come close to wrapping it up. You've had your share of bad days. Everyone's had their share of bad days. How do you give someone else that's having that bad day words of encouragement, or what do you got a good thing to say to someone on their bad days?
So the way I look at my bad days is there's always going to be a bad day, and this last experience with the heart really, really woke me up to a lot of things. And the thing is, I've been put in my worst position that I've ever been put in my whole life. Like, even when I was a teenager and everything, I always had some source of income, always had some source of something. And in today's world, with the cost of living, it's very hard to survive when you don't have an income. So Centrelink won't pick me up and I don't have a job. So income's very hard, that I've got to somewhat create that. So to me, that is a bad point, and it's something I've got to deal with every day until I return to work or get my business up and running. In the meantime, I've got to play it safe to keep what money I have without going outside my means. So I've had to cut back on a lot of leisures and toys, but again, that's where bikes kick in. So my idea is you're always going to have a bad day. It doesn't matter how bad it is, just reflect on the days you've had before that have been bad. And then remember, you've been there once before. There's always going to be a return if you're dedicated to what you want to do. You can't just look at life and expect life to give to you. You can't blame the universe. You can't blame anything apart from what has happened. And you've just got to accept it and work out how you're going to get through that the best way you can. But the biggest thing is don't give up. Don't let it get the better of you. It's probably my answer to coping with a bad moment. Other than that, I don't really know, but I'm always there to talk to people and listen. Unfortunately, I lost my son when he was 30 to suicide. So I've become very suicidal aware and help a lot of people that I feel are heading in that direction. I don't care what their story is, as long as I believe they're going to give their best to improve it and not make me the person to improve it. So I'm happy to give the knowledge, but I'm not going to give the effort, so to speak. Something you've got to do it on your own. You really do. Otherwise you become dependent on everyone and then you'll never survive. So, yeah, that's my guide. And that's how I've got to where I am today. I've lived every day as a day since I was a child. I've never given up on anything I've believed in, anything that I've dedicated myself to. I find something and I aim for it. And once I've got it, I'll then decide whether I want to keep doing it or whether I'm going to put it aside and find a new challenge. And that's what keeps me going.
Thank you so much, Tony.
Thanks, Solly.
We could get into so many more conversations here. We've
if we're going to do
barely
a part 2,
scratched the surface here. Thank you for sharing your heart and your comments and your life. And it's really awesome to have this fucking chat with you today, mate.
Thanks, mate.
Thank
Appreciate
you
it.
so much.
Awesome. Thanks, Ollie. And
Thanks,
hey,
Tony.
Appreciate you being around, man. You made a big difference in South Australia with what you did. You really did.
I'm happy to be a part of it, just like you are happy to be a part of it.
You need to do more. You got to get this YouTube stuff happening.
Let's get it happening.
Cool.
We'll run an event.
Yeah, cool.
We'll get it happening.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you, Tony.
Thank you, Zolly.
See you, mate. That's a wrap. That's us.